It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake.
Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. And I've got to say, a very fine Wednesday evening as well. It's good to be back, folks. George Morgan TV here. George Morgan back on your screens, replacing a very ill Ginger Andy, who unfortunately cannot be with us here today. But we are back, nevertheless, for more PSGL action. Top tier of PC League action this time, folks. Points are on the table here tonight. And we are here at the Marina Bay circuit for the Singapore Grand Prix. Like I said, George Morgan, joined by the man himself, Dan Field. Dan, how are you, sir?
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm great as ever, and I'm really excited for the Singapore Grand Prix. A very challenging circuit, this Marina Bay Street Circuit. A night race for us as well. Going to bring some brilliant action on this fine Wednesday evening.
Certainly will do. Let's take a little look at the track map because lots to talk about, folks. This circuit itself, 5.063 kilometers, 3.146 miles, 23 corners await the drivers. And now I've got to say some very key poignant points to this track too, because you've got the long speed trap heading in towards turn 1 and then down in towards turns 2 and 3. And then you've got the Republic Boulevard at turn 4 where the DRS detection zone lights up, and you have DRS out of turn 5 heading down Raffles Boulevard where you then meet turn 7 at the Nicole Highway. You then have a very tricky sector 3, or should I say sector 2, a mishmash of different kinds of corners, 90-degree bends, progressive bends, and also plenty of corners where you've got to feather the throttle. And certainly turn 13 is one of the most harshest corners you can get. Very easy to lock at the brakes and land yourself in the steel barriers. Then, of course, you have the DRS detection zone out of turn 21, leading in towards turn 22 around the final corner, down the start-finish straight as well. So lots to look at with this wonderful track. It's always a spectacle at Singapore, Dan. What are your thoughts?
This is one of the most grueling races, I'd say, on the calendar. It's one of the longest as well, given that it's such a slow circuit, but then the distance is so short. We're looking at 31 laps, and that's going to be about 1 minute 30 per lap. So it is very, very long for these drivers. It's going to be a real test of their skill. And also tyres will be an issue for some of these guys. So it's going to be all up in the air as to who's going to do well.
Certainly will be. And we can have a look on Gage, who's doing very soon when we head into qualifying. But we can now take a look at the updated PC calendar. Of course, a lot of you will obviously be aware due to the current changes, or certainly the latest patch that was just made available, of course, to the world lately for the fixes for the game. We have now got an adjusted calendar for PSGL. We've got Singapore obviously being today for round 10, and then of course round 11 for the United States Grand Prix at Austin, Texas. We then head in round 12 to Sao Paulo in Brazil, and then Italy for the Temple of... Well, not the Temple of Speed, sorry, I read that. It's Imola. We're actually heading to Imola, not Monza. Do apologise. Bahrain then for the final race of the calendar, round 14 at Sakhir. So still a lot of good tracks there, Dan. Lots to be excited about. My personal favourites obviously being Imola, Bahrain, obviously always a spectacle for the first race of the season, and Brazil. We saw a cracking race in the real World Championship last year between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Controversial, but brilliant.
Absolutely, and maybe we'll see some more spectacles like that in PSGL. Who knows what this grid can bring us for the rest of this season, but I do know one thing is that the PSGL fans, they're not going to be starved of any content for the next few weeks, right up until the 18th of May.
No, not at all. And we're just moments away from the start of qualifying, folks. At the moment, Jarno Watmir is still topping the charts. He is well clear right now. And I have to say, looking at the scorecards coming into this, 5 wins across this season, of course. His last 5 wins have been won at Hungary, Austria, Jeddah, Belgium, the Netherlands, and of course he's racked up a total of 4 podiums as well with Belgium and Hungary with 2 P3s, and then of course you've got Jeddah with a P2 finish as well. Should I say, actually I'm looking at Barry Burman's figures, there's 6 podiums, should I say, French Grand Prix with a P3 finish, to apologise. Barry Burman, 1 win with 4 podiums, as I just relayed. But we're now going to head over to Singapore, Marina Bay Street Circuit, folks. It's going to be a cracking night race, a clear night sky, lots to look forward to, and we'll also be bringing in a special guest as well very, very shortly. None other than a man who, of course, played a very significant part in F1 esports, of course. Lucas Blakely will be joining us as well for some live, certainly some live coverage of his own, and giving us a couple of insights as to what to expect from some of the drivers as well. But there you can see the timer ticking down. We're about to get underway.
Yeah, really excited for this qualifying session, a track which is very difficult to overtake on, so qualifying could be very important for these guys, and it's going to be lovely to hear from Lucas Blakely very soon and get an eSport driver's input on how it is to drive around this very challenging circuit, so it's a lot to look forward to.
Certainly is. Now that we're moments away, folks, have seen the first, certainly the first lot of cars make their way out, and as a conventional view that we always tend to see, the intermediate tyres are out on track. You can see there Tomek Paradzis back with us. We can go through, in fact, some of the lineups, because of course we got Nicholas Longay here as well, Liam Parnell there driving for Red Bull. Mercedes lining up with Jarno Opmeer and Jake Benham. The two have been working harmoniously together in terms of streaming. Ferrari's Brendan Lee and Danny Beresne as well. And we've also got the likes of Aston Martin's Alessio Di Capua and Simon Perigny as well. McLaren with Barry Burman, Wilson Hughes, and AlphaTauri have Thomas Ronha and Lewis Welch. Alpine have got Fabrizio Donoso, Patrick Sipos lining up for them, as well as Alfa Romeo's Philip Prejneda and Tomek Paradzis, with Haas lining up with Mattis van Erven and Christoph Zeller. Alvaro Caraton as well in the Williams, with Shanaka Clay lining up alongside him. So lots to look forward to, plenty of cars out on outlaps, and I think we can bring in the one, the only Lucas Blakely. So he's going to be joining us now in the commentary box, folks. So please land up your comments in the live chat and welcome Lucas. Lucas Blakely, welcome here to Singapore.
Thank you very much. How are you all doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Lucas. I think we're keeping well. Just waiting for this to kick off. I'm very keen to bring you in, Lucas, because of course you're such a brilliant mind when it comes to these types of cars. You know, obviously you've competed at the highest level, competing for the championship as well last season, so you know about all the pressures involved when it comes to competitive driving. We of course saw your reign of or battles going on in PSGL last season. Just how important is getting a good start in qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, grid position can lead. I mean, it is everything on some tracks, and especially in a street circuit such as Singapore. I mean, it's not too easy to follow as consistently as maybe you can around other sort of circuits on the track. So it's really, really important to make sure you're getting the laps in, not leaving it too late in the session, you know, to build, you know, too much pressure on yourself, because if you know, make mistakes on your early runs or you invalidate some of your attempts, that leaves you with a lot of pressure and a lot to deliver right at the end of the session, and it's fine margins, so you don't want to be leaving it all to the last minute. So yeah, it's certainly doesn't hurt to have a good qualifying, but with it being a street circuit around here at Singapore, anything can happen.
It certainly can. Anything could certainly happen. Tight walls as well on these street circuits as well. Very intimidating for plenty of drivers, and certainly in esports where you feel like you have to send it. Just catching a view there of Lewis Welch. You can attack the curves here at this track as well. They're not overly raised, but there's always that small matter in the back of your mind that you could so easily lose the car. Is that something you have to wrestle with, or is that just the sheer strength of mentality that you need to have be a driver at this level?
It's, again, it comes down to extremely fine margins. I mean, the difference between being in the wall, using just the right amount of curb, and getting it wrong is extremely, extremely close. So to put I mean, I would argue that Singapore, when you look at the F1 calendar, it's probably one of the hardest tracks to put an entire lap together. You know, it's one of the longest laps in the calendar. There's so many places to not just gain time, but also to lose time. You know, there's a lot to really hook up. Tyre temperatures around here as well, extremely difficult to manage, very rear limited, a lot of traction dependency. So it takes a lot of concentration to, you know, do all of these things, hit all the apexes, get every curb just that bit right, knowing what curbs you can and can't attack aggressively. And yeah, it's certainly a qualifying session that I'm looking forward to seeing right at the end when, you know, Q3, everyone's on new tyres, everyone's on low fuel, who's going to put in that magic lap. And putting a lap in round here where you get as close to perfection is probably one of the most satisfying ones you'll get in the entire calendar. So it's certainly a qualifying session we're going to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I was chatting to Wilson Hughes and Jake Benham and John Evans and many of the others prior to us actually starting this broadcast, and they mentioned that Q2 is all the more important in this event, because you will find that the OP strat is, if you can, get into Q3 on the medium tyres and therefore then do a medium hard strategy. So obviously, do you think that is the correct call? Is that something that you would look to do?
I remember that sort of strategy being a thing, even though it was many years ago, but even on F1 2018, you know, these sort of, especially with Singapore, because the race is extremely long. There's, I believe, 31 laps around what is quite a long lap. So in terms of race time, it's extremely long. So in terms of strategy, if you can get away with one pit stop, it is, you know, hugely beneficial. And I do believe, in terms of tyre strategy, you would probably want to be, as you say, outside the top 10 on mediums, rather than be in the top 10 on soft. So I do agree that we're going to see practically everyone in Q2 have to throw on a set of mediums, which is its own unique dynamic in its own right, because as all the drivers only have one set of mediums for the entirety of this qualifying session. So they have pretty much one shot or one set of runs, if that makes sense, to make it count. And also when they decide to go out on the track, whether they go for one run in the middle of the session, then they decide to do a cool-off run or come back into the pits, then go for a run at the end of the session, albeit on a bit more used tyre wear. But or you go to sort of just one lap at the end and send it. You know, it just depends what you're comfortable with. It's in a very, very unique situation because you don't see it at every track across the calendar. But I do agree with the statements that the drivers have made with how mediums are going to be critical. You do not want to be on soft tyres in Q3 because you're going to probably have to push yourself to either a really ugly one-stop or a pretty aggressive two-stop. But safety cars are also a factor here, so it's really hard to predict this race. I mean, one lap, things will look a certain way, and then the next lap it could be completely flipped on its head. So quite hard to foresee exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. Absolutely right, Lucas. But I know you said you can't possibly predict it, but I'm going to ask you to predict me a pole position. Who's going to come out on top tonight?
Well, I haven't seen everybody practice. I know Brendan's been doing quite a bit of practice. I've seen his streams a little bit. I think Wilson's been doing some, Jake as well. All the drivers will have done their due practice. But I don't know, I mean, I don't actually know in terms of track specific who's quick here and who's not quick here in terms of practice times, so I'd be needing to give you a stab in the dark if you want a prediction from me, but there's so much talent on this grid though. I mean, it's before I make a somewhat of a prediction, it's just insane to see the level we have in PSGL, in league racing, in the community as a whole, the level of drivers, the talent that we have, and we're very lucky to have that. And be able to watch that as well. But yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, there's obviously going to be a fan favourite with Jarno. He's been in very top form with his races as well. I think it's 5 in a row wins so far.
Yeah, he's absolutely spot on.
Which is you can never count out the likes of Barry, Nicholas, Alvaro. I mean, there's so many guys. I feel I'm doing a discredit to people if I don't mention them, because I could honestly mention half the grid. There's so much talent, but what I will say is it will come down to that final run, who's able to hook it up under the pressure, extract every little bit out of the car. It's going to be interesting because I really don't know who's really quick around here. I haven't seen maybe as much as I would normally if I was racing. But yeah, it's going to be. I hope it's close because it's a very long track as well. So sometimes the lap times can be quite spread. So it's always a tough one, George. You put me in the spot and you ask me these really annoying questions where I don't know the answer. But no, it's going to be whoever gets pole is going to deserve it. I think that's for sure.
Very nice sentiments indeed. And well, obviously, Lucas, we hope to see you back at PSGL as well yourself. I know that you're currently, am I right in saying you're rigless at the moment?
Oh my God. Yeah, you're correct. As much as it's painful, I don't have a sim rig at the moment. But you haven't seen the last of me. I'm not going anywhere. I can't wait to get back racing when the time is right. And over the course of this year, obviously heading into the new game when that's released as well. But yeah, I'll be back before then. I can't wait anyway. But in the meantime, let's enjoy some good action.
We certainly will. Lucas, thank you ever so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Thank you ever so much.
No problem. Enjoy.
Thank you. Lucas Blakely, everybody. We're just watching Barry Burraman now head around the next left, but very good insights there, Dan, from certainly the Scottish mastermind that is Lucas Blakely. I mean, obviously speaking about this strategy in Q2, where certainly the mediums are going to be a peripheral figure, I think, in terms of the strategy heading into the race, it's going to put a lot of pressure on some of these drivers.
I mean, absolutely. It's going to be so difficult to actually get the strategy that you want, and the softs around this circuit could last from the beginning of a race maybe about 5 laps or something, and then they completely fall off the cliff. So it'd be very tricky to get the strategy absolutely perfect if you're not on that set of the mediums. And of course, you only get one of them for qualifying. It's not like on F1 2020 when you got to choose your tyre allocation. I believe you only get one set of mediums for a qualifying session, so these guys have got one set to utilize, and if they mess up their lap, it is going to be so much more difficult for them coming into the race.
Certainly is. Patrick Saipos goes 5th fastest now because Christoph Zeller, or should I say Barry Burraman, hits the top. Nicholas Longay comes across the line and goes 1st fastest with a 1:34.132. Mattis van Erven is currently in P3, sitting pretty with Danny Beresne hot on his tail, who's currently in Sector 2 but on a slow lap right now, folks. Further down, Philip Presnader moves up. Tome Paradis moves into 3rd place as well, so plenty of cars now lighting up Q1 with just under 6 minutes left to go, but we've yet to see lap times from the likes of Jake Benham, Brendan Lee, and of course Wilson Hughes as well, with Jarno Opmeer also out on a lap as well, and he is going considerably quicker in Sector 3 as now Jake Benham, he moves up into 6th place as well as now the Flying Dutchman comes through the next left. He has got 2 corners left, turn 22 and 23, almost a blind corner. Here comes Jarno Opmeer heading down the stretch, goes 3rd fastest. How about that for a top 3, Danfield? Nicholas Longay, Barry Burraman and Jarno Opmeer.
And Brendan Lee just crossed the line, and he spoils the party for the Dutchman, knocks him out of the top 3, and he goes into 2nd position, but no one able to touch Nicholas Longay at the moment. The only man with a 1:34.1, his closest rival Brendan Lee being on a 34.2. I've been impressed this session so far by none other than the Haas of Matthijs van Erven. I watched him on his run, and he did it slightly earlier on in the session, so we do have to note that track evolution is going to be a big factor in that, but he still managed to nestle himself into 6th position, and considering he wasn't feeling this circuit coming into this one, I was in a Discord call with him, and he was very frustrated with this circuit, so I'm really pleased to see that he's got himself in this position.
Absolutely, and it's great to see this lineup. It's probably one of the strongest grids we've had this season here at Singapore, and of course Jarno Opmeer in touching distance of winning the championship. We'll have to wait and see whether he can pull that off, but we've got plenty of others out on track that are looking to try and steal the crown from the Dutchman. With only minutes left to go, it could be the case that we start to see just a couple more runs here in this session, and Jake Benham now making his way through Sector 3 as well, and he will be one of the few remaining out on track. We've also got a Ferrari there at the back. That is, of course, Brendan Lee, who went 2nd fastest behind Nicholas Longay. And in behind him as well, the Aston Martin of Alessio Di Capua. Looking to improve this week. Is obviously keen to try and make his mark again. I know that he's been working hard trying to recapture some of his best form. Remember, he was a title favourite back in the day. He used to battle with the likes of Jarno Opmeer and Barry Burraman in the midst of league racing. It's gone a little bit quiet on the win front for Alessio, but certainly trying to get himself back in the fold, Danfield.
Yeah, of course, and you've got to think about his Xbox racing career as well, when he was completely dominant in some leagues that he was racing in. He's coming back into the pit lane now, which does leave a few drivers out on circuit, one of them being a two-time PSGL champion, that being Wilson Hughes in his McLaren, now moving from the AlphaTauri into this full-time McLaren seat. It's great to see him in orange colours, and what have I got to say about this man? He's a good personal friend of mine, and I know he's got the graft to work hard in league racing. He's just coming through the final sector now, and with the only man without a lap time on the board, we'll see what he can do as he begins his lap of Singapore, George.
Yeah, heading down now in towards turn 1, breaking in just after the 100-metre board, attacking the curbs here for turns 2 and 3 as he now rounds the next left DRS detection zone out of turn 4, which he takes now, heading down the Republic Boulevard now in towards turn 5, again wrestling the curbs as he now skips over them now, down towards Raffles Boulevard now, past the blind turn 6 corner, little kink in the straight this particular one, now down into turn 7 towards the Nicole Highway, again brushing over the curbs, skipping over them as he now rounds turn 8 and heading down towards Stamford Road, down through towards turn 9, as you can see him going as wide as possible so he can get the best entry he can. Now leading down St Andrews Road in towards turn 10, bracing at the 50, literally all hammer and tong here for Wilson Hughes, of course, winner in last week's social race at Mexico. Oh, just lost the car slightly, and traction is just so vital. And we did hear a little bit there from Lucas Blakely just discussing how treacherous this circuit can really be, as now we're watching him head down Esplanade Drive into turn 14. He's now got 15, 16, and now through a very dogged 90-degree section where, of course, every corner is virtually 90 degrees, folks. In towards the next left at 17, he's got 18 and 19 still remaining as well. Skips through this curve as well, attacks every apex he can, and now down towards the next chicane, leading out of 20 and 21, where he'll then lead onto the straight towards 22 and 23. What's the Scotsman going to do here now? Wilson Hughes looking to carry on some good form. He's rushing around the final corner, P5, and just goes 2 spots behind his teammate Barry Burman. Not bad at all, Danfield.
That lap looked like he was wrestling the car a lot. I think he was a little bit loose at the rear of the car, but he's managed to nestle himself in P5 with a very respectable time, just 3/10 off of our championship leader, Jarno Otmir. So Wilson Hughes be very pleased with his run. With a minute to go left in qualifying, we've seen Nicholas Longe and Brendan Lee decide that their times are good enough, and I think that they are indeed correct. I'm trying to think where this cut-off point will be, because at the moment, George, this grid is looking so close, and with all these guys out on circuit beginning their laps, who knows where everyone's going to end up.
And that's the way, we like it, because Thomas Ronhar now coming around the final corner and down the home stretch now. He improves and goes third fastest here in Q1, so very good improvement there certainly from Thomas Ronhar, as now Simon Perigny comes around the final corner as well. Can he land himself a spot up at the top end? Oh, on the brink of elimination, P14 behind his teammate Alessio Di Capua as well. We also have a couple of other drivers out on track. Jake Benham on an outlap, just making his way around the final corner as well. We've also got Danny Beresne about to start his flying lap too, so plenty of prospects looking to try and land a Q2 spot, but we've got 5 currently in the elimination zone, and that's Philip Prejneda, Shanaka Clay, Fabrizio Donoso, Liam Parnell and Louis Welch, as Mattis van Erven goes fastest, and he lands at 134.109. Spectacular, Dan.
Yeah, that is a very nice time from Van Erven. The 2 Alfa Romeos about to cross the line. It's going to be Philip Prejneda to cross it first, and then Tomek Paragis in behind. Prejneda can't improve, and he's eliminated in qualifying. Tomek Paragis finds himself going into 3rd. Christoph Zeller goes into 5th position. We've got, I believe, Alvaro Caraton now coming through the final corner to improve on his time to go 6th position. Shanaka Clay in the pit lane. He's eliminated from qualifying. Donoso escapes the drop zone, puts Simon Perigny and Di Capua into danger. We've got Liam Parnell about to come through the final few corners as Louis Welch eliminated from qualifying here. Can Parnell and his Red Bull get off the bottom row of the grid? We'll see him now through the final corner. What can the German do as he crosses the line? And he stays, unfortunately, in 20th position. Simon Perigny, George, has invalidated his lap time, and that's his qualifying over.
And that confirms our 5 eliminations here right now. We've got Simon Perigny, Philip Prejnader, Shanaka Clay, Lewis Welch and Liam Parnell all exiting Q1. And I have to say, a couple of shockers there. Shanaka Clay, of course, recently signed to Williams Esports, has now been relegated out of qualifying and certainly will not be proceeding to Q2. Louis Welch losing it around the final corner. He was going rapid and was gaining time as well. 3/10 up in that particular point of the track, but unfortunately heading around that bend just lost it altogether. Very tricky here at Singapore, very unforgiving curbs as well. But how about this? Mattis van Erven on top spot here at Singapore. Who'd have thought? We've got a Haas on top spot here, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really impressive lap time from Van Erven. I just managed to catch the last sector of it, and he looked so committed in his car, and he's attacking every single apex, and he's reaped what he's sown, and that was an incredible lap time from him. We'll hope to see the Haas driver carry that form over into Q2, as we're just waiting for Danny Beresne's Ferrari car and Thomas Ronhard's AlphaTauri to get serviced, and then we'll get into the final classifications of Q1. There it is, and oh dear, I've been put onto an unfortunate Louis Welch stopped at the side of the road without a front right tyre.
Yeah, very vicious crash, certainly involving Louis Welch, but that's the end of Q1. And on top billing, it's Mattis van Erven. And what a time indeed, at 1:34.109. And he actually goes quicker than Nicolas Longuet by a mere fraction of a gap, well within half a tenth. So very well done indeed from him. We, of course, do have Tomek Paradzis as well in P3, with Brendan Lee in P4. Alessio Di Capua, improved session, P5, as well, with Christoph Zeller, Hungarian, in P6. Alvaro Caraton there as well. But let's quickly have a look at the elimination. Simon Perigny, Philip Prejnader, Shanaka Clay, Lewis Welch and Liam Parnell out of qualifying. Some big faces there indeed, Philip Prejnader being one of them. And also, keyly enough, Shanaka Clay, of course, just signed to Williams Esports lately as well. Not the start he would have wanted.
Oh, Shanaka Clay being out in qualifying one is a very big shock to me. He was a championship leader at the beginning of the season for a good few races. I think he only lost the championship lead around about Netherlands or sometime. So he has been on form in PSGL, and it is very, it's a head scratcher, I'd say, to see why he's been eliminated today. But of course, he's just got to get over it, gear up for this race, and come back stronger in around about half an hour for the start of the race.
Yeah, and this is a very key moment in qualifying, folks. Q2, of course, the strategies have been outlined, and we've actually spoken, as I said earlier, to a couple of the drivers as well. Of course, we just had Lucas Blakely's take on it too. Medium hard seems like the strategy. So we're going to be seeing lots of runs on medium tyres, I think, heading in towards Q2 Danfield. So lots of them looking to try and get those vital positions in the top 10. But there again, some of the drivers haven't been afraid to perform outside the top 10 either. If you can get to P11 or P12, have your choice of tyres at the start of the race, you're not out of the running, are you? You have a great opportunity to potentially cause an upset.
Yeah, the reverse strategy, of course, can be very useful. You're going to have that later pit stop and the fresher tyres in the end of the race, and you really could come alive in towards the latter stages of a Grand Prix. It seems like out on circuit, though, we've got a few drivers on out laps. Danny Beresnay, Tomek Paradzis and Alessio Di Capua. They've all come out on the soft compound of tyre, George. So it doesn't seem like they're feeling the mediums at this point. No,
interesting to see that, because, of course, it was the case that the medium certainly seemed to be the strategy to go on. I mean, certainly speaking of Wilson and seeing what he thought, and obviously the likes of Mattis van Erven, of course, who was P1 in Q1, they honestly came out and said that they felt starting on the mediums might be the optimal strategy. But it only takes one driver to go out on the softs to then make a driver second guess as to what their strategy should be. So it might be the case that a couple of drivers now have gone out on soft tyres. They're thinking, well, that reduces the top 10 to 8 positions effectively, because you're not going to beat a man on soft tyres on mediums, so we've got to all go out on softs at this point. So maybe the best place to be is P11?
Possibly, but that being said, in the live chat, I think Cartelundi's brought up a great point here that everyone will do an invalid soft run, then go medium into Q2, so that's possibly to just set themselves a delta, and then they'll come back into the pits, strap on a fresh set of the mediums, which of course they haven't used in qualifying, and then go for their final flying runs here. But Tomek Paradzis however, is out on circuit. He's pushing at the minute on his softs. Not yet invalid, but we'll just work out when he is going to do so, as he's coming up towards the Raffles Boulevard now.
Yeah, as he makes his way down the stretch, certainly Tomek Paradis heading down now, round through towards the next left at turn 7, and has gone purple in sector 1, as you would expect. Now heading in towards the next left, down through towards turn 8, and then rounding it, heading up towards turn 9, where he'll then be faced with Stamford Road, heading through the next left now into St Andrews, and in towards turn 10 and turn 11 then. This is where things start to get a little twisty, a little complicated, and he'll need all the grip on these soft tyres in order to execute perfectly. A little slow heading out of that portion, though, as he now rounds down towards turn 13. This very dogged hairpin bend. As I said before, it can catch many people out, as you can now see him hugging really close end to the steel barriers, trying to use all the circuit. Goes purple in sector 2 as well, and I've yet to see that being taken off him as he now makes his way into sector 3 proper. And he will be faced then with turns 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21 before the final 2 corners at 22 and 23. And as he now comes through the next right, Alfa Romeo, of course, donning the Veloce driver, Tomek Paradis, in this race. Of course, Tomek is a very prudent sim racer. We've seen it so many times. His performance in challenges was breathtaking, and you certainly have to be at the top of your game to win an event such as that. As now we see Tomek Paradis land a 1:37.808, and just as Cartlandy said, absolutely spot on.
Yep, so he slowed down at the end of his run to make sure that that time was beatable on his set of the medium compound of tyre. Although I am noticing in the pit lane, the likes of Donoso, Ronha and Longe, they're not going for this side to lap on the softs. They're just going straight onto the medium tyres, and actually a few of them are beginning to leave the pit lane. A few drivers are also on runs, of course, rather than slowing down. Wilson Hughes has invalidated his lap time. But it's interesting to see now drivers are going to start to come into the pit lane, box onto a set of the medium compound of tyre, and hopefully we can get a sort of sighter as to what the real pace is on the yellow stripe tyre.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it varies. Obviously, I would expect them to go all out on the medium tyres. I think it's going to be close heading in towards the final stages of Q2. You'll be able to see that from the times that get listed on the top left of your screen, folks. And obviously, please let us know, who do you think is getting eliminated here in Q2? We'd love to hear your thoughts here in this session. And almighty 1,000 of you are already tuned in for this event. Wonderful to have you all here. Please leave a like and a subscribe as well. And stay supporting PSGL as always. Always a pleasure to bring you the action every Wednesday, folks. Of course, we brought it to you Thursday last week, as we were running a esports invitational won by Wilson Hughes, as Jake Benham now goes fastest on a set of soft tyres. But like we said before, not necessarily a representative lap time, because it's a 1:35.753, and we know he can go quicker than that. With Brendan Lee now out on track as well, many others also out on softs. We've got Barry Burremand out and about, as well as Alessio Di Capua, Christoph Zeller and Mattis van Erven, of course, who went fastest in Q1. Patrick Sipos also out and about as well, but many now out on the medium tyres, including Brendan Lee, Fabrizio Donoso, Alvaro Caraton, Jarno Opmeer, Thomas Ronha and Nicolas Longe. So lots to look forward to. Things are about to kick off now as we see Jarno Opmeer going slowly out of turn 3.
Absolutely. Fabrizio Donoso beginning his timed run on the mediums through shears, turn number 1 into 2 and 3, and down this short stretch up towards turn number 4. A lot less grip on these medium compound tyre. You're looking at about an 0.8 of a second drop off between the C2 mediums and the C3 softs, as in towards now the Raffles Boulevard and down in towards turn number 7 of Memorial Corner. This is looking like a pretty decent time so far, a 26.2 through the second sector for Donoso. We'll see now as he's got Jan Ortmid just in front of him. I'd imagine that the Dutchman's going to do a nice and tidy job of getting out of the way of the Chilean driver down in towards the Singapore sling, which of course caused havoc for drivers up until around about 2013, when it was replaced by a much nicer corner on the car. As in towards the Anderson Bridge and down in towards turn number 13, one of the slowest points on the circuit, short shifting up the gears to maximise the traction on his medium compound of tyre down in towards Connaught Corner. It is going to be sector 3 now for the Chilean driver. He's looking pretty decent on this runners down in towards this quick right and then left complex of corners down in towards Bay. Turn number 18. We're right by the seaside, everybody, so you better get your fish and chips very soon, as in towards turn number 20 and 21. This has been a lap of Singapore on board with Fabrizio Donoso as he comes through turns number 22 and 23 to cross the line. It is going to be the benchmark for everybody, a 34.7, immediately beaten by Longuet.
Yeah, Nicholas Longuet beating that as well. Thomas Ronhaar goes second fastest and moves up just in behind Nicholas Longuet, 134.429 to beat. We've also got Jarno Watmere out on an out lap as well. We've also got plenty of other cars now making their way out. Let's run on board here with the Flying Dutchman as he now makes his way down through towards turn 1. No doubt this to be certainly one of his flying laps that I'm sure he's going to want to try and nestle on top order as he now rounds down out of turn 5 through Raffles Boulevard, now in towards the next right-hander now. Of course, this being Raffles Boulevard, should I say, out of turn 5, where DRS does open up as he now rounds turn 6 and heads down through towards turn 7 into what will be the Nicole Highway. And again, just attacking the curbs. He wants to try and be careful, don't want to lose the traction. Very easy to meet a barrier, or certainly meet a wall. And we see it quite considerably, or a lot of occasions, at Sector 1 as well, as we have done so, seeing it in certainly turns 1 and 2. We've seen many instances there in the past, haven't we, folks? As now we're watching Jarno Watmere head through the next left now, in towards the next right, just courtesying the car as he does so, getting so close there to the barriers on exit out of turn 12, in towards turn 13 now, out of the Anderson Bridge, and now leading up towards Esplanade Drive as he now heads down and powers down towards turn 14, where of course he will meet this very dogged, again, right-hander. Doesn't even graze the curb on this one, needs all the tarmac possible, takes a lot of the curb on exit, goes past Nicholas Longuet in the Alpine, who is currently going slow as he now rounds turn 16, 17. He's got 18 and 19 as well to take. And then afterwards, 20 and 21 as part of this series of 90 degrees as he comes through the next right. Fourth gear now, and now once again tackling certainly some of these chicanes. It's so vibrant here around Singapore, staying in fourth gear now, powering up to sixth gear around the final two corners here. Jarno Watmere looking to go to the top, not this time though. It's P6 ahead of Jake Benamy, stays Mercedes outside of the top 5.
I think Jarno's going to have to go again on that one. That looked like a pretty scruffy lap for the Dutchman as Alvaro Carreton goes into 5th position. It's key to mention as well, at the top of the order, currently occupied by Danny Bergeny. He set that lap time on a set of the soft compound of tyres, so he's going on a completely alternate strategy. And as we heard from Lucas Blakely, he's either going to go for a very, very tyre conserving soft to hard, or an aggressive two-stop strategy. We'll have to see what the Hungarian driver opts to do. That is a very interesting strategy choice from Bergeny there.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's the only man on the softs, and that will remain the same. The only drivers I can imagine that might want to upset the apple cart are those in the bottom 5. You know, any of them could essentially put on a set of soft tyres and maybe just try and get themselves into the top 10. I mean, a safety car could so easily twist up the entire order when we get into the race proper, folks. But Alessio Di Capua also out on a lap right now, but it's invalidated. And we've also got laps for Wilson Hughes and Barry Burramand on the cusp at the moment, as now we're watching Wilson Hughes come through the final sector. And I have to say, speaking of Wilson, last week gave him a lot of confidence down. Coming off the back of a difficult Challenger series, he discussed it. He was very honest and truthful about how it can affect your mindset, the mentality in esports, and how tough it can be to perform at the highest level. But he says you need to perform at the highest level in order to improve, and he's absolutely right. And a big result last week could easily become a big result this week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful that the mental side of things got brought to our attention. Of course, it is a very grueling task to be at this pinnacle level of F1 esports and in league racing as well. And it's great that we're just getting to see a light shone on it. You know, that these guys, they are human and doing the same thing repeatedly. And no matter how frustrating it can be, it does take a toll on your mental health. So it's brilliant that we've got people like Wilson Hughes to bring attention to this as he's continuing on this lap, and he's looking very tidy at the minute through, oh dear, that was a ride over the curb and a slow run in towards Anderson Bridge, but through turn number 13 at 60 kilometers per hour. DRS now open for this short stretch and in towards turn number 14. It's a 102.7 through the second sector, George, and you have to think he's lost time through the Anderson Bridge.
Yeah, it probably didn't go favourably. It did light up purple in Sector 2 for him, but we'll have to see how this lap corresponds, of course. Currently sitting on 25 points is Wilson Hughes this season, and has done well to certainly coop up what he has done. Currently sat ahead of Thomas Ronhart and Nicholas Longe as it stands. So that's not a bad couple of drivers to be ahead of as he now rounds the final corners and makes his way down the stretch. What's Wilson going to land? P5, a very respectable time indeed. Of course, Wilson, no stranger to doing 2 wins in a row. The last time he did it, season 28 in the PS4 Championship, finishing in a winning position at both Canada and Japan back-to-back. And I'm sure he'd love to do that again today on the back, or off the back, of that win at Mexico last week. He's got the capability.
Absolutely, Wilson Hughes, a very talented driver for quite some time. I do remember those sets of races as myself and Luke Etheridge commentating over them back on F1 at 2020. Alessio Capua has just crossed the line, I believe, and he's gone into 6th position. And it's also nice to see Matthias van Urban once again popping up at the sharp end of the field. Really impressed with how the Dutchman's coped so far this evening, and I think he is a star for the future. Who are we watching at the minute, George, on this lap?
Well, we're currently watching at the moment Jake Benham. I think he's the one who's currently out on track. We've got plenty of other cars out and about. Barry Burremand is also in the mix, but Jake Benham looking to try and break into the top 10. Could actually knock his teammate out of the top 10 himself. Jarno, incidentally, has actually gone out on a set of soft tyres, so I'm not sure what the reasoning by that for the Dutchman is. I mean, whether he's just trying to get his car to the top, maybe figure to do something like Beresne has done, because Nicholas Longe has done the same. Currently sat in P2 as Patrick Saipos goes 3rd fastest. Further back as well, Brendan Lee is also out on an outlap, as well as Danny Beresne, and crucially enough as well, Christoph Zeller trying to get himself out of the bottom 15, well, certainly in 15th place, because he's currently back of the running cars here in Q2. Heading through the final sector, and around the final 2 corners, in fact. Here comes Christoph Zeller. Can he land himself a top 10 spot? He certainly should do. P3 he does, and goes just a tiny bit slower, approximately 0.02 of a second slower than that of Nicholas Longe. So good time to find there for Christoph Zeller.
Absolutely, as Barry Borman's now coming through the final corner. He puts himself into 5th position, and I'd say clear into the next session of qualifying. We could be at risk of losing both Mercedes car here, and I actually believe that we might do so as Jake Benham's just coming through the final corner. I believe he has just made the cut, but he is on a scrub set of the medium tyres. Alvaro Carreton and Donoso eliminated. Wilson Hughes has been knocked out as well. So both of the Mercedes cars at the moment, George, have got a task on their hand. They're on their final runs, and surely one of them, if not both of them, have got to get into the next session, and surely that puts Ronhart and Capua at risk of being dropped out.
It certainly does. Jarno Opmeer for one, currently sat in Sector 2, currently in P14 as well, with Jake Benham in 15th place. Now, Jarno Opmeer is on a set of soft tyres, needs to make use of them and make effective use of them. If that, we'll have to see what he can do as he now comes out of turn 10, in towards turn 11 now, in towards turn 12 as well at the Anderson Bridge, as under the floodlights here in the night, certainly in the night sky of Singapore. As he now rounds the next left, Mattis van Urban has retired from the session. He's content with his P6 position. He has every reason to be as well, because Brendan Lee's finished it behind him, as well as Thomas Ronhart. Alessio Di Capua currently at risk, as well as Thomas Ronhart, because both Mercedes could certainly take them out of qualifying, though I think Benham might be on a slow lap, as now Opmeer makes his way in towards turn 18 and 19. He's going to send it here in the final few corners. Can he get himself into the top 10 and also land a place here in Q3? You'd firmly expect him to do so on soft tyres, but stranger things have happened. Round the final corner, the Flying Dutchman looking to answer. P1 he goes, and goes ahead of Danny Beresne and Nicholas Longe. A statement to be said, and he is now on top spot.
Jake Benham just about survived. He's managed to squeeze through into P6, so both of the Mercedes cars managed to climb their way out of the bottom 5 at the expense of Thomas Ronhart and Alessio Di Capua. They're being joined in the bottom 5 by Wilson Hughes, Alvaro Carreton and Fabrizio Donoso. And I've got to say, George, the biggest surprise there is Alvaro Carreton, currently 5th in the standings. It's a 3-time podium sitter so far this season, eliminated in Q2.
Yeah, some very big names, in fact, leaving us in this session. Carreton, Donoso, Wilson Hughes, you would have perhaps expected a better run as well. Not to mention Alessio Di Capua, who looked to be showing a little bit of form. Great to see him in Q2. But not able to get into Q3, unfortunately. Thomas Ronhard, also an elimination as well. I've got to say, a young man, Saint Veloce, looked to be the rising star as well. But remember, from P11 and P12, you will have that favourable position on the grid where you can select what tyres you want to go on for. They can go for that what's considered OP medium hard strategy. So it's not all said and done for those eliminated in Q2. We'll have to wait and see who can pull off bit of magic, should we say, as we head into the race. But I have to say, great lap from Jana Watmir, Danny Beresne right in behind him as well. But the top four all on soft tyres, will they be exposed by those on the mediums? That is the question we've got to ask ourselves downfield.
I believe Longate's actually managed to post his lap on a set of the medium compound of tyre, but certainly Otmir, Beresne and Zeller, those guys, they're going to be in trouble coming into this race with the wear that the softs carry. You're going at about 5% a lap, I believe, is what Wilson Hughes was recording. So it's going to be so tricky for them.
Absolutely. Just look at it, 134.123 for Jana Watmir, but are they going to be exposed? Nicholas Longe in a very good position, starting on the medium tyres in the top three. That surely puts him, should we say, in a favourable position heading into the race. In behind as well, you've got Christoph Zeller on the soft tyres, surrounded then by medium tyre drivers. We lost Ronhard, Alessio Di Capua, Wilson Hughes, Alvaro Caraton as well, to name a few. So I have to say, some big surprises here in qualifying, folks, yet again. Some big names leaving us, but keenly enough, Jana Watmir on the softs to start the race. But Nicholas Longe, impressive though. Sort of went under the radar in that session. Medium tyres, getting himself into P3. That's got to do wonders as well for your confidence.
Yeah, of course, Longe was one of the few drivers that didn't do a cycle lap on the set of the soft compound of tyres, so certainly we didn't see him all too much on circuit. I believe he did just the one lap, and that was good enough to get him into the next session of qualifying. And it's paid dividends because he's now in Q3 and he's been able to set a faster lap than that of a driver on a set of the soft. So you've got to think that Longe is going to be in prime position to take a strong qualifying spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomek Paratis now out on an out lap, and we're going to join him now, folks, as we now head across. And, there you can see Tomek Paratis, the first man out on track. 11 minutes here left in Q3. That is all they have in order to set a lap time to decide where they start in the top 10, of course. We want to hear from you, folks. Please land your predictions in the live chat. Who is going to get pole position for this Singapore Grand Prix here at PSGL? Of course, the title still on the line. Jana Watmir is very nearly, well, he is in touching distance, just needs to get a few more points across the line to get through some of this calendar in order to reduce any possibility of anyone else snatching it away from his grasp. But currently sitting pretty at the top of the standings. I mean, 44 points. You just can't write him off, can you?
No, you really can't. I mean, Jana Watmir is in a league of his own at the moment, but he is doing an incredible job with 5 wins in a row. With the strategy not being in his favour today, we could see that streak coming to the end. But of course, this isn't some random league racer. This is Jana Watmir. You know, he's a 2-time F1 Esports World Champion, and he's a 3-time PSGL Champion. He can pull something special out of the bag, but at the moment, he's currently on his outlap. Tomek Paratis and his Alfa Romeo is beginning his run in Q3.
Yeah, heading in towards turn 1, I can see comments lighting up for Jana Watmir. Jana Watmir, pole, Super Pogmir. We've got Jano again. Matthias also getting some support in the live chat as well. Patrick Saipos also getting a thumbs up. Jano pole for sure. Lee for pole. That's Brendan Lee. Barry Burramand as well. And yeah, Nicholas Longe as well is getting some support in the live chat too. So lots of comments coming in. Jano pole easy. Danny, Brendan. Everyone getting on the bandwagon, and even some love for Jake Benham there as well. So wonderful to see it as now Tomek Paratis now makes his way down St Andrews Road, leading in towards turn 10. And as he does so, this is a very high-speed section of Sector 2. And again, feathering the throttle, you've got to be so on the ball with the brakes. Heading in towards turn 13, you need to be on it as well. And you need to get so close as well to the apex of that particular bend. And as it can so easily throw you out wide. And he's gone purple as you would expect in Sector 2. And now into sector 3 proper. You'll then be met with those 90-degree rights and lefts that you have to take. Certainly those very tight chicanes. As now Tomek Paratis sends it in towards the next left again at 18, 19. And now down through towards 20. The DRS detection point comes alive just after turn 21. And he's just passed it now, heading through the final couple of bends at turns 22 and 23. Can the Alfa Romeo land a very good lap time to start? He certainly can. 134.2868. That is very respectable.
Yeah, absolutely. For a banker time in Q3, we'll see what some of his rivals can pull out of the bag. We've got Van Erven, unfortunately invalid on his run, but we do have Brendan Lee on a push lap now, and he's just going past that Alfa Romeo, of course, the sister team sort of Ferrari. Also, it's worth mentioning that Brendan Lee has got a 3-second time penalty that's been carried over from the French Grand Prix, which was quite some time ago, but we can't just forget about those type of things. And Patrick Saipos is also carrying over a 5-second time penalty from the Netherlands, so it's worth mentioning those guys at the end of the race.
Certainly is. We're now seeing Zella Christoph come across the line at 135.410. Matthias Van Erven as well coming across the line. Remember, he was a hero in the first couple of sessions, not able to land a time just yet though, and he's going to have to go again, that's for sure, as he now lands a lap on those soft tyres. We've now got the Ferraris heading around now as well, Brendan Lee being one of them. He's now in sector 3. Can he land a big blow? No, he can't, because he has invalidated his lap 2. Danny Perezne also out on track. He's chasing what looks to be the Red Bull of Nicolas Longuet, who of course is going to be starting in P3 on the, well, not in P3 on the mediums, but he's going to be starting in the top 10 on the medium tyres. But a great lap here today would certainly help his prospects of securing a big result here this evening, as he now rounds to the next right. And we've also got Patrick Saipos coming through the final sector as well, as we can now see him taking all the chicanes. And this could be a big moment as well for young Patrick Saipos, part of Race Clutch, part of Alpine Esports. Made his debut last season, goes top with a 134.020, with Jana Otmir now coming around the corner with Jake Benham second place for Otmir with a 134.023. Barry Burraman now goes P4, he goes fourth fastest. In behind as well, many others coming through, including Nicolas Longuet, who comes around the final 2 bends and goes top spot there, crucially enough, with a 133.969, and that puts him in such a devastating position on medium tyres.
Yeah, that's the first 33 that we've seen all evening in PSGL. That is really special from Nicolas Longuet. Matthias Van Erven is just coming through the final couple of corners now, and he's going to pull into the box. Brendan Lee isn't pushing at the minute, so that's our first phase of laps completed in Q3. Nicolas Longuet, that has got to be something that he'd be patting himself on the back after that one, because that is a fantastic lap time from the Frenchman.
Yeah, I know that the statement of Red Bull is give you wings. I think Nicolas Longuet meant it literally. That is incredible from the Frenchman. Of course, moving from the Alpine team, formerly Renault as well, and was actually a Red Bull for his first season of F1 Esports, if you remember, all those years ago. But great to see him, though, back in amongst the top end. Of course, signed to Veloce now, so he's going to have a very different team as he heads in towards another season, but certainly not short of talent, Dan, but he's still awaiting his first PSGL win.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy to think that he hasn't won a race at all in his PSGL career across these 3 seasons, and I actually didn't know that. I thought he'd at least have secured one win at some point, but Nicolas Longuet, it really is beckoning him. But I'd say after his performances so far in qualifying, being able to out-qualify in Q2 a soft runner, you know, that has got to put him in some pretty strong stead. If all goes well today, we could see Nicolas Longuet finally securing a top spot in PSGL's. He pulled into the pit lane. We've just got the lone Ferrari of Danny Berejne out on circuit, but I don't think we'll be waiting too much longer until we see another driver pulling out of the garage and onto the circuit with just 4 minutes left.
4 minutes indeed. 90,000 capacity here at Singapore and Marina Bay. Broke ground back on the 31st of August in 2007. Herman Tilke, of course, designing this particular track under the lights, of course, here for a nighttime race. first opened back on the literally a year after it broke ground, 31st of August 2008 was the first race here at Singapore, and wonderful occasion as well. Certainly is a spectacle. The street race has certainly become a very big, giant figure in Formula One. Of course, we've got the Miami circuit now opening up very, very soon, along with many, many others as well. Tomek Paradzis, again, the first to leave the paddock, and making his way back out onto the circuit. And of course, the pole, after winning challenges, has been hot tipped as a future star, to say the least. You don't go ahead and win the Challenger Series without having a golden prospect at a brilliant career in F1 esports, and Veloce had been housing this young talent now for many, many years. And despite his very young age, vastly experienced in the world of league racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember back just before first lockdown, all the way in 2020, I was watching Veloce Squad Sprint, and I saw the name Veloce Hypers coming up, and I thought he'd have been some well-experienced and craft and tenured driver, and it was just some 14-year-old boy just playing in his room, and it is fantastic to see how he's improved so much, and now he's finally going to get his opportunity in F1 esports. And I know nothing is confirmed at the minute for the future of the pole, but surely you don't dominate challengers like he did and not get yourself into an F1 esports position. Surely it is just a matter of time before he's announced to be driving for one of 10 teams in F1 esports, as he's on his outlap here. Just taking it nice and slow. He's in no rush at the minute, and of course we're seeing how he applies the brake and the throttle at some point at the same time. That's to burn up fuel, if you weren't already aware. And of course, it's going to make the cars light and as nimble as possible around what is a very challenging circuit, as he's now, George, coming through the final sector to begin his run.
Yep, Tomek Paradzis now coming into the mid part of Sector 3. Wonderful to see a lot of people as well from Miami in the live chat. Big welcome to all of you stateside. Thank you for joining us here tonight, as now we watch Tomek Paradzis heading down through towards turn 1, just past the speed trap, and heads into this very tight chicane. Quick, very fast paced indeed. Rounding turn 3 now and heading down towards turn 4, where DRS detection will light up here. And as he does so, he will be bombing down out of the Republic Boulevard, soon to meet Raffles Boulevard out of turn 5. And in the Alfa Romeo, sends it now down through towards turn 7 at the Nicole Highway. And we'll be looking to try and register his time. Certainly a time quicker than that of Nicholas Longay, but I have to say, a 1:33, that is really impressive. The only man in the 1:33s is Nicholas Longay, with Patrick Sipos, teammate from last season's F1 esports, lining up in second place. I mean, I tell you what here, Dan, if Race Clutch had this lineup at this point of qualifying, I think they'd be delighted.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He's doing fantastically at the moment, but I don't think he's finished. He's on his run at the moment, is Nicholas Longay. We'll see what Paradzis can do. He's almost 2/10 up on his previous best, so he's looking nice and tidy at the minute around the Marina Bay circuit. A very challenging 23 cornered lap. Of course, counterclockwise around here as well, as through turns 18 and 19 for the Polish driver in his Alfa Romeo. He's just got 4 more corners to navigate before he has completed his final run, as the clock is ticking down. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1 to complete qualifying. It's going to be Tomek Paradzis crossing the line first, but he's not going to improve any positions. He does improve on his time, and certainly that's going to make it more tricky to beat him.
Yeah, Brendan Lee coming into the final couple of bends as well. The Scuderia look on as Brendan Lee sets his first time in the, well, with no time left here in quali. Goes fastest there with a 33.7. Brendan Lee, a clutch finish. Matthias van Erven goes third fastest as well. But Nicholas Longay, he comes into the pit lane. He can't improve. Christoph Zeller as well coming through. He finishes P9. Drops Jake Bennett further down. Barry Burman goes into P2 as well. And now chasing further in behind, Patrick Sipos makes his way around the final couple of corners as he now rounds it past the start-finish line. He finishes in P5. Danny Berezne also out on track. He's going quicker in the final sector, 2/10 to be exact. He goes third fastest as well. Ferrari lining up Ps 1 and 3. Sensational here at this point here in Q3. Further back as well, Jarno Otmir looking to try and improve as well. He can see that Brendan Lee has landed a 33.7 2.787, a purple lap of an extreme magnitude at this point. Barry Burman also just outside of that P1, as now we're seeing Otmir around the final corner as he comes up towards the line. Can he go better? Fourth place as Jake Benham finishes in P3 as well. So it's a Mercedes 3 and 4, but Brendan Lee, that was something utterly special. Incredible scenes here at this point in quali. What can we say to that there, Danfield?
Well, that is spectacular from Brendan Lee. The two Bs locking out the front row of Brendan and Barry with a 33.7. Nicholas Longay, I think that's got to be a little bit of salt in the wound for him, considering he was the first driver in the 33s. He invalidated his run, and everyone behind him was able to improve. He's going to be starting 6th in this race, but for Brendan Lee, that has got to be something very special. It's his first race in PSGL, by the way, since France. So he's not been here for quite some time, and now he's finally getting his opportunity to shine on the main stage, and he is taking that and running with it.
Yeah, Brendan Lee, how about that? Incredible. Of course, the man who was champion in F1 esports in its first iteration back in 2017, and then he won it again for Mercedes the following year as well. And many call him the original champ. He, of course, was that. Exactly right. Of course, had very good success in AOR as well on both the Xbox and the PC platforms. He has just taken pole position here in Q3 again. What a result for the Ferrari team, a 133.787. Barry Burman in second for McLaren, and he is just barely touching, literally 5 thousandths of a second is all that separates Barry Burman and Brendan Lee. Jake Benham in third, a great return for Jake Benham up in the top order with Jarno Otmir just in behind him as well. All of them within a 10th of a second in the top 4. Sensational. Danny Beresne also for Ferrari in P5. Remember, he's starting on softs as well. Nicholas Longay in 6th, just could not quite get it at the end, with Matthias van Erven in one of his best qualifying performances of the season, with Patrick Saipos in 8th, Tomek Paradis 9th, and Christoph Zeller in 10th. But Dan, I have to tell you, incredible, I have to say. And you just look at those minor gaps around a circuit, a gargantuan circuit like Singapore. It's a long lap around the Marina Bay, and at the same time it can be so jeopardizing because the walls are just so close. It only takes one mistake for you to bin it.
Yeah, there's so many times that I've been on board with the driver and I've thought they've just gone slightly too wide into a corner and that they're going to hit a wall, but they've all managed to avoid it. I believe Tomek at one point did graze the wall, but he came away with it without any damage, so it didn't affect him in any way. But yeah, it is so tricky around this circuit. Certainly you and I, George, I'd imagine that over a 31 lap race, we're going to have some great grazes on the wall. But these guys are a lot more experienced and a lot more talented than us, so they can pull it off, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. Well, before we get into the race proper, we have, of course, got a little short message from our sponsors. Welcome back, folks, and we're just watching the drivers head out on the formation lap. Brendan Lee, of course, leading the way, and how about that? Certainly a Ferrari back on top, of course, that we've seen on many an occasion already this season. Charles Leclerc doing the bit for the Scuderia, and Barry Burman in second in a McLaren as well. How about that top 5? We've got a Ferrari, McLaren, 2 Mercedes, and another Ferrari. I suppose we should throw in Nicholas Longay in the Red Bull as well in 6th place. So it's very much a goated top 6, I would certainly say, at the top end if you consider F1 esports professionals from yesteryear. But of course you've also got Matthias van Erven, who's very much also in the point of being an F1 esports professional, of course, taking part last season, including Patrick Saipos, as well as the youngster Tomek Paradis, as well as Christoph Zeller as well. What a lineup we have for the start of this race. We want to hear from you folks in the live chat. Who is going to come out victorious here at Singapore? Dan, I'm going to throw it to you. What's your tip? What have you got for us?
You know what? Ever since you brought up the stat that Nicholas Longay's yet to win in PSGL. It's been bugging me now, so I'm going to say finally, after all this time, Nicolas Longue is going to secure his first PSGL win. I'm seeing a lot of love for Jan Ortmeier and Barry Burmand as well, George. So as expected in the live chat, but I'm so excited here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether Caraton has made a mistake or whether that's intentional. The only man on the soft tyres in the bottom 10. Extraordinary. I mean, all the others on hard tyres. The top end, plenty of mediums. Jana Watmir and Danny Berezne, the only ones, bar Christoph Zeller, on soft tyres. And that is bizarre. But I'm sure that's going to provide us with certainly a story to tell, I think, during the race. But as you can see, folks, the drivers now lining up. I see lots of support for Jana Watmir here in the live chat. Jake Benham as well. Anyone else? Have we got anyone else here, folks? I'm just looking on this list of people who's gone for who. We've also got, well, loads for Jano, Barry Burmand as well, listed on here, plenty of others. Brendan, we've also got Philip Prejnader with a comment in the chat as well. As now the drivers make their way onto the grid, folks. Keep it with us, you're going to be in for a hellacious ride. First light, second light, third light, fourth light, the fifth light. And it's pedal to the metal, go, 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 go. Immediately cutting into the middle, Brendan Lee trying to defend the approach from Barry Burman. Jake Benham also jumping in on the attack as well. Danny Berezne in the midst too, with Caraton immediately jumping up into 12th place. The softs are working well for the Williams. Further up, Tommy Parantis also in the midst of a fight as he now challenges Matthias van Erven. With him behind as well, Patrick Saipos moving up into P8, but still in front currently is Brendan Lee, as now Van Erven sends it a slight lock-up, heading into the next lap, just squeezes through past the Alpine as they go neck and neck, but Saipos is refusing to budge, with contact now from Christoph Zeller. Dramatic start downfield.
Yeah, and that's dropped Saipos down into 10th position. Alvaro Caraton has had a brilliant start and found himself up into 8th. As, oh dear, I think there's trouble at the back as Shanaka Clay seemingly is far off the pace, as is Liam Parnell. The two of them might have had some kind of scuffle at some point, but it's Brendan Lee out on top at the moment, followed by Barry Borman, Jake Benham in behind, Jan Ortman and Danny Berezne. We have to watch out for those guys, of course, on the soft compound of tyre, as there's Caraton going up the inside of Patrick Saipos. That's another move made for the Spaniard on his fresh soft tyres, and he's making them work early on.
He certainly is. Saipos not having the best of starts and is not getting the most out of his mediums. I know, speaking earlier on to Wilson Hughes, he said the mediums were at the very start a little bit hard to get going. He said the pace wasn't too good, the grip wasn't too good. It does take a while for them to steep into effect, as already we have cars peeling into the pit lane. Matthias van Erven, oh dear, in the pit lane already for a tyre change, and that is certainly going to hurt his prospects in this race downfield.
Unfortunately, I'm just looking on our telemetry system here. He's got a lime green front wing at the left side. Really unfortunate for Van Erven, because it was looking like such a promising race for the Dutchman, but it is ended in tears. As there it is, he's confirmed his retirement. Matthias van Erven, unfortunately, eliminated from this race, and he is our first DNF on lap number 2.
Yeah, major shame indeed from Matthias van Erven, DNFing out of the race. Not what we expected, but nevertheless out of the race. But further up, Brendan Lee still in front and is actually pulling away a little bit. Barry Burman very close to that 1 second threshold. Of course, if that steeps into lap 3 onwards, that means no DRS for the McLaren. And there you have it, folks. Brendan Lee breaking DRS. 1.1 second, Dan. That's outrageous.
Yeah, Brendan Lee's got some great pace in his Ferrari at the moment, and that's going to leave Barry Burman a bit vulnerable to Jake Benham, although he is 8 tenths back, so I'd imagine that they're going to keep a nice, consistent gap to each other. You know, at the top of the order, they don't want to burn up their mediums too early. Of course, they're not even in their prime working condition, so if you're using them all up this early on, then it is going to be very, very tricky for you to keep it going later on into your stint, where you're going to need the tyre life to push for the hards at the end of this race. But at the end of this tour of the circuit, we are going to have DRS now being enabled. It's Brendan Lee with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and the first taster of DRS these drivers are going to receive is down the Raffles Boulevard in towards turn number 7.
Yeah, indeed. Donoso as well in the pit lane as well, so he's boxing too. So I'm guessing there must be some damage implications there as well. Alessio Di Capua is now in P13. Further up as well, Jarno Watmere, currently sitting near enough a second back from his teammate Jake Benham. He's now coming back in now as they make their way down the next straight. They've got the next left to take, heading down through out of the Nicole Highway. And they'll then take turn 8 as well, as now Caraton go fighting tooth and nail, this time with Christoph Zeller. And as you can see on the soft tyres, Caraton doing distinctly better than what Christoph is doing right now, and has managed to garner himself quite a feat of positions here. Top 8 now for Alvaro Caraton. That's not bad at all there, Danfield.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done fantastically to make up the positions. He's up 6 at the moment, the most of anybody, as expected, of course, on his fresher soft tyres that he was able to strap on early on. Well, at the beginning of this race, he had the free tyre compound choice. He's now going to make up a slight deficit to Tomac Paragis of 1.5 seconds before he's able to attack the Alfa Romeo. But Alvaro Caraton, whilst it's looking good for him at the moment, the same goes for all the soft runners at the moment, is that their tyres are not going to last forever. And certainly, George, they're not going to last a long time.
No, not at all. Nicholas Longuet, currently sat in 6th place, of course. Remember, he's on the optimal strategy. Had every opportunity of actually getting a good grid slot as well. Remember, he was the one who went ultimately fastest of the medium runners in Q2. Not quite able to rediscover that form heading in towards Q3. As already we're seeing Christoph Zeller pit as well. I thought he was uncharacteristically dropping down the field and already boxing those soft tyres, but then we did say that the hards can go to the end, so maybe that's what the soft tyre drivers are doing. Maybe they just want to get them off as soon as possible, get the harder compound on, just so they can get through to the rest of the race. Oh, dearie me! Now, was that a Williams that went off in the background? That is Caraton. Caraton off there, Danfield.
Oh dear, Alvaro Caraton unfortunately losing the car. Has he got any damage on that Williams? I'm not seeing it on the telemetry system, but I don't think he's actually put in his details. I can certainly see, yeah, the front left end plate, George, it's been completely taken off that Williams car. And after such a strong start for the Spaniard, that has really got to hurt. He's certainly coming into the boxes, oh dear. Well, to add insult to injury, he's put it into the wall, and now without a front wing at all, and with such a long lap around this circuit, he is going to be crawling at the end of this one.
He certainly is. Tomac Paragis now starting to gain on Danny Beresne. Remember, Danny's on soft tyres as well, so you've got Tomac Paragis on mediums. Other softs really dying off this quick. That is incredible, as they're now coming through the next chicane, and Paragis now right on the rear wing of the Ferrari, of course, both with Ferrari powertrains. Both these constructors, in fact, of course, Ferrari being a self-made manufacturer, and of course Alfa Romeo have been the same, but donning the Ferrari engine certainly this season, as I was seeing this time Beresne coming into the pit lane, so that now allows Paragis to move ahead of him into P6. Longuet still in 5th, currently sitting 3/10 in behind Jarno Watmere, and gaining, in fact, so there's going to be another battle now between the Flying Dutchman and the Frenchman Nicolas Longuet, both Veloce drivers as of this year, of course. Remember, Longuet signing to Veloce and will no doubt partake as one of their drivers for the new F1 esports season with DRS opened up now. Longuet smells his chance. They go side by side now in towards the next left at turn 7. Nicolas Longuet, piece of cake, moves up to P4.
Yeah, that was a routine overtake for Nicolas Longuet, and I think it is the case of the softs completely dying at this point in the Grand Prix, as Philip Presneder makes a move for 10th position ahead of Alessio Di Capua, the Italian, trying to come back at him in towards Stamford Corner. And we've got a nice 4-car train at the moment, being made up of Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri, and the 2 Aston Martins. We'll see what they can do, what they can bring to the table for the lower end of the point-paying positions, and just outside of the top 10. Starting on these hard compound of tyre, it means they're going to be able to go very long into this race, as up the top of the order, the Alfa Romeo of Tomac Paragis, George, has just been able to overtake Jarno Watmere, and I think that is telling that it is time for a pit stop.
Yeah, certainly the softs are starting to fall apart here at this point of the race. They just don't seem to have the life, but I want to pull our attention back to Brendan Lee at the top end. 2.6, nearly 2.7 seconds clear of Barry Burman. Extraordinary pace. So just launching it right now. Like, Barry has not been able to get into touching distance anywhere near the DRS. Surely Brendan is in... Well, he's unstoppable at this point. Is there no stopping the two-time champ.
Yeah, I mean, he is on some fine form at the minute, is the Ferrari driver, Brendan Lee. But of course, I've seen people talking about it in the live chat. There is an ongoing glitch in F1 where it's some fresh tyre glitch. And I hope Brendan hasn't been gifted that, because he's romped away with this race, and Barry Burman has been unable to keep up with him really throughout the entire race so far. We've only had 6 laps in this one. He's already 2.5 seconds ahead, so he's got to keep going with his race. Of course, it's towards no fault of his own. He's doing an incredible job of it at the moment, but if that has... Oh yeah, and Kryptonite actually just confirms that Brendan was on fresh tyres at the start of this race. So yeah, Brendan Lee, he's been given a little bit of a help, but I'd imagine that just slightly fresher tyres doesn't warrant 2.7 seconds.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously it does help, without a shadow of a doubt, but maybe he can abuse them a little bit more than maybe the drivers behind, but at the same time, is it really worth the gap that we have seen? You're absolutely right, Danfield. I suppose that's the question we need to ask ourselves. But already the gaps have been sprung outwards more and more. Thomas Ronhaar now starting to get closer to Patrick Saipos as well. The gap between those two, just under half a second. That can easily be brought downwards. Ronhaar now finding the pace on the hards against the mediums of Patrick Saipos, of course, who does not have DRS on Jarno Watmere, because he's just under 4.5 seconds back from him. So the AlphaTauri is going to be a little bit of a problem now for the Alpine of Patrick Saipos round in the final 2 bends here on their lap 6 of 31, now starting their lap 7 down through towards turn 1. Wilson Hughes also in the midst of the fight as well, as now Ronhaar comes through the next left, just nursing that rear Alpine wing, and gets a better line leading out to the straight as well. Might get a chance leading down through turn 4, turn 5 in towards Raffles Boulevard, and he will have a nice long straight to unleash the DRS as well. Does go alongside the Alpine. Thomas Ronhaar full send side by side, hard tyres on top, and does go ahead of Patrick Saipos, who's now down into P8. Wilson Hughes no doubt will be smelling blood at this point. If Thomas Ronhaar got past, he'll be looking to do exactly the same.
Yeah, Wilson Hughes doesn't want to lose touch with one of his main adversaries in this Grand Prix. Of course, the pair of these drivers eliminated in Q2 and starting on the hard tyres. These two will be phasing into the race at this point, and surely the McLaren is going to look to make a move as soon as possible on the Alpine, unfortunately, who was dropped pretty early on with a very, very poor start and a little bit of contact as well with, I believe it was Van Erven or Stella Christoph, as here comes Wilson Hughes closing to the rear of the Alpine in towards turn number 14, but he can't get close enough. I think Saipos was given a slight helping from the DRS, but in towards the final sector, it's nigh on impossible to make an overtake, and this has really helped out Thomas Ronhaar.
It certainly has. It's enabled him to get clear, and he has done so by 1.4 seconds. So Thomas Ronhaar doing a superb job, making the most of that gap that has been sprung out due to Patrick Saipos being able to hold back the force of Wilson Hughes in the McLaren, but surely Wilson has got to make the lunge as now Patrick Saipos moves into the pit lane, so that saves him a job. But of course, Wilson Hughes is going to be gritting his teeth a little bit, because he's lost a crucial amount of time here in the race to try and chase down Thomas Ronhaar, as now Saipos falls down the field to make a change on those medium tyres. Tyre wear is such a prevalent issue at this circuit, Danfield.
Yeah, this is a circuit where the tyres drop off a cliff completely. It always is the case around these typically hotter countries. You know, in Southeast Asia, this circuit does hurt the tyres quite a bit. But I'd say that is a pretty early stop for Patrick Saipos, especially since we're still seeing Jarno Watmere out on circuit on a set of the soft compounder tyre. We saw just 1 or 2 laps ago, Tomek Perat, I think it was 2 or 3 more like, but Tomek Perat just was able to overtake Jarno Watmere. Watmere's now been dropped by 4.2 seconds to the Alfa Romeo. So these tyres, when they go off the cliff, they really do fall hard.
They certainly do. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of strategy Jarno's doing. We always know, we've seen it in the past as well, certainly Mexico last week, where he took the strategy very long into the race, looked to make a small comeback towards the end, nearly managing to turn it around in his favour, but now taking the softs very long at this point here in the Singapore Grand Prix. Still holding his own though in P6. We'll have to see how this fares leading in towards the other half of this race. We've still got a long way to go, folks. Lap 9 as Brendan Lee crosses the line to commence that lap 9 of 31. Barry Burman has almost become a twinkle in Brendan's eye. 3.6 seconds is now the gap, and it's being sprung outwards as now Jarno Opmeer comes into the pit lane, no doubt, for a set of the hard tyres. I think he's hoping to have that extended tyre wear. No, he's going for mediums. That's a 2-stop Danfield.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jarno was doing some sort of drive till the tyres explode challenge, but he's decided to box onto a set of the medium tyres. Very interesting call from Jarno Opmeer, and he's got to make a second stop in this race. Surely they're not going to go to the end. And in the dry conditions, which of course we are currently occupied by, the pit lane loss is 28 seconds. So Jarno Opmeer, he's going for an absurd strategy, but you know, he must know something that we don't know at this point, because he's the only driver, as far as I'm concerned, that has opted for a strategy quite like this.
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. He's the king of alternate strats. We've seen it so many times where he's pulled something out of the bag. I mean, you never know. If we get a safety car, it could very quickly turn into his favour. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, regardless, he must have to stop again, without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, obviously, Christoph Zeller isn't going to be a problem at this point because, of course, Jarno can make use of these medium tyres. I mean, the only issue it could be the case of is that Christoph Zeller will have his tyres up to temperature a lot more than what Jarno Opmeer does. We'll have to wait and see how this goes. But let's see how he performs. Certainly plenty of time left to go in this race, folks. We're a long way off. 21 laps still remain here in this Singapore Grand Prix as Jarno Opmeer now makes his way through the next round. He's just posted a purple Sector 2. So certainly no problems with pace at this point downfield.
Yeah, and another driver boxing in at the moment is Tomek Paradzic. I'm seeing a lot of drivers saying that that these guys will be able to make it to the end, but they're going to be in puncture territory 100% as Tomek Paradzic boxes on to a set of the hard compound of tyre as expected to run towards the end of this Grand Prix. These tyres can pretty much go the entire Grand Prix, about 28 laps in total, and he's going to have 22 on this tour as he's coming out of the pit lane now and comfortably ahead of Jarno Opmeer, but he's slotted in behind Danny Beresnay, who's also pulling off a similar strategy to Jarno Opmeer, but he boxed 4 laps earlier as in the pit lane there, Shanaka Clay retiring from this one. He had to pit at the end of lap number 1, and that is his day firmly in the mud, and Williams not looking good at the end of this one.
Shanaka Clay suffering, I think, is the terminology, and it just has not gone right for him. Qualifying just wasn't to be. He struggled, but I have to say, big shame that we couldn't see the best of Shanaka Clay. It's been harsh for Williams today because Alvaro Caraton got mixed up in that incident earlier on, but he is still going on this circuit. He's currently sitting in 18th spot on hard tyres as well. But anything can happen around this track. It's so easy to get a safety car, certainly when the walls are just simply so tight. It can enforce errors, enforce mistakes. The curbs can be treacherous as well, should you get them wrong. So, you know, nothing is all said and done just yet. What I can tell you, folks, is that Brendan Lee has just launched the time deficit out to 4.4 seconds nearly. So he is absolutely sending it at this point. Still leading the way with Barry Burman right in behind him here. I tell you what, if Brendan Lee can get absolutely everything out of these medium tyres, I see no reason why he can't do a one-stop.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, of course. Brendan Lee he's on fire at the moment, and although he has he has been helped by the tyre glitch, you know, that doesn't give you 4.5 seconds, I'd say. As Nicholas Longuet manages to clear Jake Benham up the inside in towards Memorial Corner at turn number 7. That's a move for on-track position. Of course, the pair of these guys yet to stop in this Grand Prix, and now Nicholas Longuet hunting down his first PSGL win. He has found himself on to the podium. Jake Benham in behind though, he's not been dropped yet, and surely these two will have a race-long battle, George.
Yep, sharing DRS at this point. Lap 11 of 31, Longuet with the advantage in P3. But Jake Benham locked in behind, and he will have certainly have the straight leading down Esplanade Drive. He might use some of the power with the DRS opened up, of course, heading down this next straight. Closes the back flap now, heading round this next right-hander, and this will lead him down through towards 15 and 16. But Longuet pulling out a little bit of a deficit, adds 0.2 of a second onto that deficit, out to nearly half a second and more, as they now make their way into Sector 3 proper. So Longuet now in 3rd place, 3 seconds in behind Barry Burman, who is dropping further and further back from Brendan Lee, another 0.4 of a second now launched on top of the 4.4 seconds that Brendan Lee had already managed to successfully procure against Barry Burman. And of course the fast Iranian who has been really taking it to Yana Watmir in league racing in recent seasons. Of course the two had a hellacious battle over the last 2 seasons of PSGL in the PC Championship. Yana Watmir would obviously come on top. No other driver has won the PSGL PC Championship other than Yana Watmir. A total of 13 league race wins throughout his PSGL PC career, and he's the only man to secure double digits in this championship, which is sensational. The closest man being Barry Burman on a solitary 5 wins to date. How about that for a stat downfield?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly one word to describe it, and it's dominant. And you know, he's pulled off a star-studded career in both F1 Esports and in PSGL, of course, winning his first title all the way back on F1 2019 on the PlayStation platform in season 25. What a time that was. Of course, we're in a completely new era of league racing, and it's funny how everything has changed. And speaking of the Dutchman, he's closed up massively to Tomek Paradzic. They're just coming through the Singapore Sling now, as in towards the Anderson Bridge they go. Surely on the fresh and medium tyres compared to the fresh hards, he's going to have a large pace advantage over the Alfa Romeo.
He certainly will. Heading down the stretch now, DRS will open up. Certainly for him. Simon Perigny also closing up on Louis Welch as well. That's a battle for P9 on track, as now Yana Watmir now sends it through the next left. The pole, Tomek Paradzic, can now see the Flying Dutchman right in his rear right now. Of course, both drivers featuring in Q3 earlier on this evening. So now round the next left here in Sector 3. And you've currently got Tomek Paradzic on fresher hard tyres. He, of course, can go significantly longer than Yana Watmir and will have the pace as well later on into this race. We're in lap 13 of 31 right now, folks, as now we see Louis Welch in the box, and Yana Watmir and Tomek Paradzic proceed to go past him as well. Donoso, as well as Liam Parnell, only 2 drivers with time penalties right now on this track, so it's been a good performance from the drivers in terms of respecting the on-track rules. Brendan Lee has just marched it out plus 5 seconds now, 5.193, nearly 5.2. Correction, it's gone past 5.2, is now the Flying Dutchman goes past now Tomek Paradzic, leading down through towards the next left. A purple Sector 1 as well. Yana Watmir flying and goes past that man Paradzic, as he now rounds out of turn 3 through Republic Boulevard and now down at Raffles. He's doing a spectacular job trying to nurse the medium tyres, but he's still got a lot of work to do downfield.
Yeah, if he can get to these to the end, he's going to be in a great position. And oh dear, at the bottom of the screen, I've just noticed Thomas Ronha has left the session. And as the lead hard runner on the alternate strategy, that is going to hurt him so much. It's going to allow for Wilson Hughes to close up to the rear of the AlphaTauri, his former race seat in PSGL, now being occupied by the next superstar from the Netherlands, as Longe leaves the session as well. And I think we had some sort of lobby crash here, George, because I'm out here too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure, folks. I mean, we're still bringing you live coverage. I think a couple of drivers, I think, are having a few problems. I can see that you've left as well, Danfield. A bit of an issue at this point. Brendan Lee on top currently still. I'm not quite sure what the circumstances are. Wilson Hughes goes ahead of Thomas Ronha. We got Simon Perigny in the pit lane as well. Keep it with us, folks. We're still bringing you live action, but unfortunately we seem to be having some issues. Liam Parnell's just left as well.
Steam's gone down.
Not according to me, it hasn't. Still going. I think we're still live.
I've not got any connection to Steam here. I'm not too sure what's going on. I think other drivers are having issues, but I can't rejoin.
Right, we do apologise, folks. Nicolas Longe has rejoined, so he is now back with us. We've also got Brendan Lee in front. We'll obviously bring you some word, folks, as to what is decided, obviously, at this point. Obviously, we haven't heard anything from the PSGL stewards. Obviously, we can see all of you in the live chat and all your calls as well. We'll keep you posted as we go. Brendan Lee still leading the way. Barry Burman as well in second place. The live timing, I can tell you, folks, has all changed. We haven't got a view as to what the deficits are right now. There is no intervals. Don't really have an answer for them right now, Danfield.
I don't have any answers at all at the moment, George. I can't access anything at this moment in time. Oh, I think I've finally been able to reconnect to Steam. I'm seeing a lot of other people are also having issues, but well, what a turn of events here.
Yeah, it certainly is. I believe that Steam has actually been the issue. That is the rumour. Steam has had a little bit of a moment, and it's caused a few issues, I think, for a number of the drivers, and certainly, of course, for downfield. What I can tell you is this, folks, is that the live timing has now come back, and we're starting to read out some of the numbers now that we were seeing before. So apologies for that. A little issue. Apologies with the Steam servers, but we are somewhat back with some form of racing. Are you back in the session, Danfield?
No, I think I need an invite here, unfortunately, because I've got no way to get back into the session.
We'll keep it with us, folks. We'll just see if we can just bring Danfield back. We have got confirmation there from Big C, of course, the boss man at PSGL. We're just going to see if we can get Danfield back in with us. Bear with me just a second, folks. Okay, by the looks of it, I can't invite you, Danfield. I'm not sure quite. It doesn't give me the option to invite Danfield, so I don't know what we're going to do, whether we can get one of the drivers to do it for us. It's a problem we did not expect, folks. Do apologise. Brendan Lee out on top. Barry Burrowman in second. Jake Benham currently sat in third place. Alessio Di Capua, Thomas Ronhar. If anyone can hear us that's driving out there, if they could give Danfield an invite, that would be superb. We're currently watching Brendan Lee still lead the way, though. 6.3 seconds of the realm. Jake Benham there as well. Danny Beresne moves past Thomas Ronhar, the ghosted car of Thomas Ronhar at this point, who is now falling down the field. We've got Jarno Watmere currently sat 2.3 seconds in behind in 10th place, with Tomek Paratis in P11. Fabrizio Donoso in 12th. There were quite a considerable distance behind Paratis. 8.8 seconds is the gap between those two, including Christoph Zeller there in 13th. Side post then further back, and quite a few of the pit stops have happened now, so we'll be waiting, I'm sure, for many more to take their next stops, of course. Danny Beresne currently 3 places down from where he started, as we're now watching Jarno Watmere, who's now going to move past Thomas Ronhar as Simon Perigny sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:37.4, as the Flying Dutchman now moves up into 9th spot. And that is certainly, in terms of those who have stopped, Jarno Watmere in second place in behind Danny Beresne, who's also stopped. So if you take the top 7 out of the question, I tell you what, there's opportunities out on this track for everybody right now. It could be the case that one safety car is all we need for effectively a bit of a twist in the tail at this point. We'll have to keep you posted on that, folks, and see how this race pans out. But it's just extraordinary how the likes of Brendan Lee, Barry Burrowman, Jake Benham, Nicholas Longe have all managed to drag out 15 laps on medium tyres. And Dan, that is a superb effort, isn't it?
Yeah, these tyres will be going off very soon for the medium runners, and that's where the hard runners like Hughes, Presneder and Di Capua are all going to be able to they can be able to really phase in to this Grand Prix. As I'm seeing on the timing towers that Presneder has been able to get past Di Capua. My current feed at the moment is the YouTube live stream, so I'm sort of alongside our viewers here today, bringing them into the commentary box now, I guess, with us.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, we're bringing you a little bit of a different view to the broadcast here today, folks, as Tomek Paratis now moves up into 9th place with Alessio Di Capua now in the pit lane. We're starting to see those in the top end now start to box. And as you can see, 16 lap all age tyres up on top spot. So that's impressive how they've managed to drag those mediums out, as you alluded to earlier on. And Brendan Lee still leading the way, though, remaining out on track. And Barry Burrowman obviously not making any decisions with his stop until Brendan Lee does his. So my guess is that this is going to counteract itself, Dan. Certainly if there are drivers out there who are going to do the 2 stop, could this effectively balance it out? The longer the top end drivers are staying out, obviously it's going to slow them down considerably more, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd imagine they've got to come into the pit lane in the next few laps. I mean, on my spreadsheet here, I've got the pit window for the mediums to hards of being 12 to 14. I've got that completely wrong, but normally the life is around about 16 laps. These guys have been able to surpass that, and they've done an incredible job of doing so. As Brendan Lee just coming through the final sector now, are we going to see him pull it into the pit lane? He is not. Brendan Lee staying out on circuit, but surely once one of these medium runners at the front of the order blink, then everyone's going to file in.
You would firmly expect him now to make it to the end on the hard tyres, but once he boxes, obviously it's going to bring the deficits right down. Jarno Opmeer now within a second of Danny Beresne, so things starting to heat up here at this point in the race, as now the Flying Dutchman rounds the final corner, still letting fly at fellow Veloce compatriot. Now, I'm starting to get a feeling about this strategy of Beresne's and Opmeer's. This is very interesting indeed. Certainly, I know they're going to have to box again, but surely when the likes of Brendan Lee box, and of course the likes of Jake Benham, Wilson Hughes, Philip Presneda as well, they can box as well, so effectively be almost on the same strategy, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, to be honest, George, I do not know what is going on with the strategies here. You know, it's all up in the air as to who is going to come out on top at the moment. That's what we do love about PSGL. You know, there's always that question mark looming over our heads. Who's going to be on pace? Who's going to have the best strategy? And we are here for it on lap number 18. Still got a long way to go, George.
It certainly is a long way to go indeed. The gap now being brought down between Beresne and Opmeer to a mere 3.5 tenths to 4 tenths of a second, as they now come through on lap 18 of 31, round turn 13 now. And they'll open up the DRS now this time. Beresne has also got it because he's got it on Philip Presneda, who's ahead of him. So naturally he will close on the Alfa Romeo. Around the next right, still only a matter of fragments in between these three drivers. 6 tenths between Presneda and Beresne, with 4 tenths in between Jarno Opmeer and Danny Beresne as well. Tomek Peradze is trying to close. He is 2.9 seconds back between that of him and Jarno Opmeer as well, with Barry Burman, who has boxed too, 4.5 seconds the realm, as Brendan Lee now comes into the pit lane. He is officially boxed, hard tyres strapped on, as we now take a look at the gap to the leader. Jarno Opmeer has managed to dispatch now Danny Beresne, who I believe has come into the pit lane, as now we're seeing certainly Jarno Opmeer go side by side with Brendan Lee. Does he get past him? I think he has. Brendan Lee has just exited the pit lane, but crucially enough, Jarno will have to stop again. So Brendan Lee still very much in top spot at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan Lee, he's going to be a lot quicker than these worn out medium compound tyres for Jarno Opmeer at this point. I've still not been able to get back into the session, and it is really playing up, and it's starting to annoy me here, but yeah, at this point in the race, it is anyone's guess as to who comes out on top.
It is anyone's guess indeed. Louis Welch as well going ahead of Simon Perigny, the man on the pad, once again pulling off a bit of a masterclass here at Singapore, as we're now seeing, as I say that, Simon Perigny with some lovely traction and makes his way up into P8. That was a beautiful move there from the Aston Martin as they head down the next straight, leading down through towards turn 14 out of Esplanade Drive. Incredible indeed. And I have to say, it nearly did a number on Louis Welch. There was a little bit of wheel spin underneath the tyres, and Simon Perigny able to unleash the beast as they come out of turn 13 and sending it down the straight with the DRS opened up. He's managed to pull out a very healthy gap indeed, and will not play victim to that of Louis Welch's DRS, as now we're seeing Wilson Hughes go side by side with Christoph Zeller. Wilson Hughes, just too much, gets ahead of the Haas.
Wilson Hughes pulling off a nice and tidy move, understandably, on his fresh medium tyres. He's going to be one of the quickest men on circuit at the moment, as Philip Presneda has been overtaken by Jarno Opmeer, because the Slovenian driver pulls into the pit lane now, and we'll see what he can do. Oh dear, Tomek Peradze has also boxed, and George, at this point, that's really silly for the Alfa Romeo duo, because of course they're going to have to double stack, and Tomek has really been screwed over here.
Yeah, he certainly has, and that's going to lead to some some very interesting discussions discussions later on. But of course Presneda now has left the pit lane, so has Tomek, and certainly Peradze himself had to get his front wing changed anyway, so there was certainly some other underlying issues, as now Wilson Hughes now battles with Louis Welch, gets ahead as well, moves into P7. And Wilson Hughes actually finishing very, very quickly. No laps actually set on those medium tyres. He's on the out lap, sending it now around this next left. So big points on the table for Wilson Hughes, who's now trying to let fly at Simon Perigny. And literally only a matter of gaps between the pair as things stand. Half a second. That's all that separates them. Alessio Di Capua now getting past Christoph Zeller. Patrick Saipos now also looking to try and get through as well on the Haas of Christoph Zeller. As now they get tight around turn 13. The Alpine now opening up the DRS in behind. So does Christoph Zeller, is now bombed down this next straight towards turn 14. Oh, getting so late on the brakes there. Patrick Saipos probably did not expect Christoph Zeller to get so close to him, but it got so tight between the pair. But Patrick Saipos unable to get that move pulled off.
Yeah, Jake Benham now putting into the pit lane for his scheduled pit stop, and we'll see what tyres the young driver goes on. It's going to be a set of the soft compound of tyre. It's a very audacious strategy call for Jake Benham at this point, but we'll see how it works out for him as he comes out of the pit lane now, and the Mercedes driver is going to rejoin, I believe, just in behind Louis Welch and Di Capua, I'd say.
Yeah, and Patrick Saipos going ahead now, Christoph Zeller as well. So Jake Benham's going to become part of this fight too, but I don't think he will be necessarily disturbing anything in behind him because he's on the quick soft tyres. As now Tomek Perantis moves ahead now of Thomas Ronha, who does box again onto a fresh set of medium tyres, and that sends him to the very, very back of this grid order. Everything's been chopping and changing at this point. Jarno Watmir is still in front, but have a look at this. Brendan Lee, the man who's fighting for the race win here, with every chance of taking the win here in PSGL. This would certainly mean a lot to Brendan Lee, that's for sure. DRS opened up now for the two-time champion, but still not making the move on Jarno Watmir. The Flying Dutchman still in front. 2/10 is all that separates the pair. Brendan Lee, of course, who was only just recently boxed, has now made it through Sector 3 and is certainly now looking to try and commence lap 22 of 31, potentially in front at this point, as they're now watching that Ferrari literally right on the rear of the Mercedes. How often have we seen this season? Usually the Ferrari out on top. Of course, Charles Leclerc performing out of his skin here for Ferrari as they come through the next left-hander now. Brendan Lee and the two world champions, of course, both of them together earning 4 world championships between them in the world of F1 esports. Jarno Watmir still in front, but for how long? Because Brendan Lee is literally pushing him around the track at this point. The tyres, the grip, literally the difference between the two, vastly different at this point as they now round the next right-hander. They've got another straight to take, this time at Raffles Boulevard at a turn 5. Brendan Lee goes wide now and goes side by side with the Flying Dutchman. Brendan Lee now on absolute top spot, P1 for sure, and the Scuderia lights up as number 2 goes into P1, Danfield.
Absolutely, and Alvaro Carton blessed me with an invite to the session, and I was able to watch that live and in person. What an overtake for Brendan Lee as he leads this Grand Prix. Jan Altman still has a deficit to Barry Bourmand in behind as well, so he's going to be feeling a little bit safe and secure at this point in time. However, whilst one McLaren's not able to make a move, I believe another one is going to be in prime position because Wilson Hughes is right in behind Nicolas Longuet. At this point, it's fresh mediums for the McLaren and it's fresh hards for the Red Bullers. On to this short little straight here. Wilson Hughes going to cruise on by. I think Longuet has got out of the way because he does not want anything to do with that McLaren. They're both going to run their races individually, but there it is for Wilson Hughes, and a slight nice little gesture to just say thanks for letting me by there.
Yeah, absolutely. Wilson Hughes now in 4th place. McLaren on for a very good day, in fact, as Barry Bourmand is still sat in 3rd place. We've still got quite a few laps left, 9 laps to be absolutely certain. Jarno Watmir in 2nd place, Bourmand in 3rd. Still a chance for Bourmand to obviously get that P2, and he should do, because Jarno, you would expect to box, but you never know. Stranger things have happened as now we're watching Wilson Hughes head down towards the next left, and of course Wilson himself will have a huge opportunity to get a podium finish as now Jake Benham moves ahead of Lewis Welch on those fresher soft tyres, putting them to good use, that's for sure. Looking to finish quickly, maybe even get a fastest lap for his troubles as well, if he's so lucky, as he now looks forward now to Simon Perigny, who's on 8-lap medium tyres. Further back, Alessio Di Capua getting closer to Louis Welch as well, who's currently suffering at the hands of those mediums as well. Thomas Ronha is back in the session, so he's looking to rejoin, but remember, he's got a mountain to climb from the back of the order on fresher tyres. Philip Prejley getting past Patrick Saipos as now we're watching Alessio Di Capua around the next right, getting closer and closer to Louis Welch, the pad man who has dazzled many on many an occasion as well, as they head down now towards turn 10 out of St Andrews Road. They've got turn 11 beckoning next, the next series of chicanes before they then reach turn 13 at the very tight hairpin. And just literally getting as close as they can to that apex. And on the exit now, Alessio Di Capua will feather the throttle and then open up the DRS. Can he utilise any of the power to get himself in towards the next right? Not quite this time, but surely I think Louis Welch is going to struggle on his compound.
Of course, Alessio Di Capua with the slightly fresher medium tyres in comparison to the AlphaTauri. The padman has been doing a brilliant job so far this race to secure himself P8 so far, of course, being eliminated early on in qualifying. We've lost our deltas due to Thomas Ronhal rejoining the session. It's great to see that the Dutchman is back today. But as they cross the complete lap 23, we're going to start to see the gaps appear on screen once again, as here comes Alessio Di Capua closing in towards Shears Corner, turn number 1. Of course, he's not quite close enough to go by this time. I think as one Alpha Aston Martin could be moving up, another could be moving down, because Jake Benham just up ahead on the road. Simon Perigny is losing time to him, as here he comes down the Raffles Boulevard. The Aston Martin without any defence from Jake Benham on his fresh soft tyres goes up the inside, and he makes that move stick, and as does Alessio Di Capua. So was one Aston moves up, the other moves down.
Yeah, absolutely. Alessio Di Capua in 8th place. Perigny, his teammate, in 7th as well. So Aston Martin getting or trying to get into the points-paying positions and doing a mighty job of it as well. Of course, Alessio has had a very tough time in league racing lately, is not performing to the best that we have seen in previous years, but I'm sure with a character of his tenacity, the Italian, I'm sure will be back to fight at the top level again, and that I'm for sure is his priority. To say the least. Louis Welch now 7/10 behind Alessio Di Capua. That gap stagnant at this moment, though I'm sure it will be drawn out, because Louis Welch has got 4 laps administered on top of his compatriot Alessio Di Capua, who's only got 6 laps currently, so 4 more for Louis Welch. Because he's on 10. Further up, Brendan Lee has already managed to advance the gap between him and Jarno Opmeer to 3.2 seconds. Brendan Lee is certainly clear at this moment in time, with Barry Burremand starting to reel in the Flying Dutchman as well. Wilson Hughes, who's going to try and finish strong on those medium tyres, also trying to bring the gap down between him and his teammate to maybe finish in a podium position. But we'll have to keep watching, of course. I get the feeling that the idea of Jarno Opmeer pitting at this point is probably not something he's going to entertain with a mere 6 laps to go downfield.
No, surely he's going to try and stick it to the end. But of course, it is key that you mentioned that Brendan's been able to stretch the advantage to over 3 seconds, but because, of course, he received a 3-second penalty in France, and so that means that's been carried over to this race, which was, of course, the last time he competed, and now he gets to keep his win if all finishes in this position. So great stuff from Brendan Lee. But surely at the moment for Jarno Opmeer, he's not going to be thinking about the man who's beginning to stretch his advantage to now over 4 seconds. He's going to be looking in his rear view mirrors, because that McLaren car of Barry Burman is beginning to pull closer and closer with every fell swoop of the wheel and every application of the throttle, because the Iranian ace is charging at the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, he's well within a second now, Dan, and he's chopping at that wood right now. He's pulled it in another 1.5 tenths, and now looking to pull it in 2 tenths, which he's just done now, as he now round the next right-hander out of the chicanes now at turns 20 and 21, and now the final 2 bends on this lap, and as they do so, Jarno Opmeer is going to be at the mercy of the McLaren. And just look at how the gap has shrunk in a matter of sectors as now they come in towards turn 1, and surely Burremand will get his chance down Raffles Boulevard out of turn 5 as they now head out of turn 3 down through towards turn 4, heading through now this next swinging right-hander out of turn 5. Raffles Boulevard will come next, and Barry Burremand will have DRS as he activates it now, heading down the stretch. Will he look to pull it out here as they now head in towards the next left at turn 7? Not this time. They will have, though, a series of bends before then the minor straight coming out of turn 9 in towards turn 10. As they do so, now Barry Burremand with all the chances in the world here of unseating the Flying Dutchman's podium finish in P2. Can he do it, Danfield?
Well, you get the feeling that he can, and Jarno Opmeer is really struggling on his set of tyres. Of course, we saw some of the first medium pit stoppers come into the box around this time to strap on a set of the hard compound of tyre to go right to the end. Now Jarno's in that territory where he's could be at threat of receiving a puncture. Barry closes towards turn number 14, but he's not close enough to go for the overtake, and you get the feeling that the Iranian driver's going to be getting quite impatient following this slow Mercedes, especially since his teammate Wilson Hughes is now beginning to close to under 3 seconds, and now a podium really is in the crosshairs of Wilson Hughes as on towards lap number 27 they go. Brendan Lee just begun the lap, but we've got to watch the battle for P2 between Barry Burman and Jarno Opmeer. He's got all the ERS in the world at the moment, 68% in the battery as he closes in towards Shears Corners, George Morgan, but he's not been able to get the move done.
No, not at all. Jarno Opmeer, though, will not be able to rest just yet. Barry Burman still hot on his tail, and they've got a small matter of Raffles Boulevard. Just look how close Barry Burman's getting to the Flying Dutchman. We've seen them battle in ORL. PSGL once again, as now Barry Burman moves into second place and clears the two-time F1 Esports World Champion, the current World Champion, and at the same time a 3-time PSGL champion as well. And Barry Burman, I'm sure, will savour that P2, certainly for McLaren as well, but he's still got a significant amount of work to do. Brendan Lee has pulled the gap out to over 6.5 seconds. Incredible indeed. But the big question is, can Wilson Hughes make it a double McLaren podium? Only 1.8 seconds behind Jarno Opmeer.
Yeah, and you get the feeling that Brendan Lee stretches the advantage enough that Barry Burman doesn't see a realistic opportunity to close enough, and possibly he could try and back Jarno Opmeer up into his teammate if he really wants to play the team game at this point, because Wilson Hughes is only 1.7 seconds off of the Mercedes car, and now he's already closed the gap to 1.5. So the Scotsman, coming off the back of a win in Mexico in our social race just last Thursday, now could be hunting down a podium on the grand stage here in Singapore as they're beginning lap number 28 now. The gap between himself and the Flying Dutchman is 1.3 seconds.
Well, if we just look at the stats here in a minute, we've had 5 different winners this season here in PSGL. Brendan Lee has the opportunity to make it 6. Jarno Opmeer, of course, winning this season. Barry Burman as well. Jake Benham won at France, as well as Shanaka Clay, who won at Britain. Thyman Shooter, of course, winning at Monaco. Can Brendan Lee, surely he will, make it another different winner here in PSGL this season? And surely it will be a record for the number of different winners in a single PSGL season as well. Wilson Hughes now bringing that gap further downwards. It's touching a second as we speak, and it's nearly within DRS as well as he starts to reel in the Mercedes as they round the next left-hander, leading down through towards what will be turn 10 out of St Andrews Road, and very soon into turn 11 too. Certainly the McLaren doing his utmost to try and reduce that deficit, and he will no doubt have DRS heading down between turns 13 and 14, and as they do so, just feathering the throttle again now, Wilson Hughes. He'll know that Jarno's got 10 lap older tyres on, and without any doubt will surely unleash his as they head down the stretch. No chance this time, but Wilson Hughes, the Scotsman, who is looking to try and add something else to another thing to his quiver, or his bow, shall we say. That McLaren literally pushing around that Mercedes.
Yeah, surely Wilson Hughes, he's getting impatient. He's itching to get this move done as he's following in behind through the final sector. Jarno Opmeer with hardly anything left to give in this race. They're only coming up to 3 laps to go. Wilson Hughes with 40% ERS in the battery. Here he goes down the main straight, and he's going to pull the move off into Shears Corner as he goes up the inside. And Wilson Hughes onto the podium positions, and this could be his second podium of the season. Spectacular stuff from the McLaren car. Jarno Opmeer, all fair play to him. He didn't put up a fight because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to keep that McLaren car in behind. But at this point, George Morgan, it seems like the 5-race winning streak for Jarno Opmeer is in the grave at the moment.
Well, it certainly won't be made a 6th time, that's for sure. But at this moment, it's Brendan Lee, who we're currently looking at on our screens. He's leading away, and 6.8 seconds seconds quicker or ahead of Barry Burremand right now. And the deficit between the tyre life, 9 laps for Brendan Lee on those hard tyres, 10 laps for Barry Burremand. Wilson Hughes currently sat in P3 on what will be, I'm sure, a podium to savour, a double McLaren podium, to be honest as well. And there's 2 Bs lining up the top order with Brendan and Barry currently sitting in those positions. Jarno Opmeer now down into P4. Still good points for the Dutchman, to say the least. He opted for an alternate strat. It could have paid off. A safety car could have very easily caused a stir in this particular race, but it wasn't to be. Jake Benham, though, also in the fight. He's broken DRS on Nicolas Longuet.
Absolutely. I mean, the Mercedes driver, his tyres aren't going to be in great nick at all at this point. But with just a few laps to go here, he certainly could see himself in the driver's position to make a move. He's just dropped, unfortunately, out of DRS range for the from the Red Bull driver. He's got a clear gap behind to Alessia Capua. So Jake Benham, surely at this point in the race, is going to think about pushing and closing to the rear of the Red Bull. I'm just going to quickly check, George, who has the fastest lap. It belongs to Tomek Parajic, who's retired in the pit lane. But one thing that is key to mention, that Alvaro Caraton's come to the box, and he's going to have a crack at the whip to set the fastest lap on the final tour here.
Yeah, well, he's in P15, hasn't got a lot to lose, so certainly it will... at least it's something to take away from the race at this point. Brendan Lee, though, untouched at this moment, leads the way. Sector 2 he is in right now, with certainly others now chasing after him. Albeit, though, he's currently not being troubled whatsoever. Just rounding turn 13, he's now got this next long straight leading up towards turn 14, and passing some of the lap cars as well. As you can see there, the 2 orange McLarens also looking to try and close up to Barry Burremand, though only seems to be going outwards 0.3 of a second. The gap is now increased, and in behind as well, Wilson Hughes sat in P3. But Dan, who do you think has pulled off the more impressive performance? Who has managed this race the best? It has been an interesting one, a very different race to what we would usually have here at PSGL.
Yeah, I mean, I've also not been able to watch for most of it, being shafted out of the lobby by some game issue. But I've got to give, at this point, the best performance of the day to Wilson Hughes. He's been fantastic today, pulling off 10 overtakes in this Grand Prix to now sit on the podium. And I'd also like to mention, George, that Jarno Opmeer could be losing out 4th position to Nicolas Longuet, because he's closing to the rear of the Mercedes car in towards this short little stretch into turn number 4. He's got the Raffles Boulevard to go, DRS enabled for the Frenchman, as off the exit of the corner, Jarno's surely going to try and fight this on the final lap of the Grand Prix. He's closing in towards turn number 7. Opmeer defensive to the inside, around the outside, the long way round for Longuet. He's off the circuit, but he's got the inside line for Stamford Corner as he goes surely up the inside here. Opmeer with a spectacular defensive manoeuvre to hold on to that position, George.
It got so close between the pair. Jarno Opmeer not leaving any stone unturned, that's for sure. He wants to stay in 4th place. Nicolas Longuet, though, with different thoughts on his mind. They've still got the long straight in between turns 13 and 14 where DRS will be active, but Longuet unwilling to wait as they round turn 13. Opmeer still holding on to 4th, but Longuet immediately pounces with the DRS opens up the rear wing. Jarno Opmeer now squeezing him to the outside as they go side by side, so close to the barrier. Longuet still on his mid-side as well, coming through into sector 3. Is it going to be Longuet? It's Longuet up into P4, but wow, what a race! Spectacular! It's the 2-time champion. It's Brendan Lee who wins the Singapore Grand Prix. The young Brit has done it, and he's back with a vengeance here at PSGL. Our 6th different winner this season, with 2 McLarens finishing in Ps 2 and 3. What a finale, Danfield!
Yeah, Nicolas Longuet being dropped down the order for some sort of penalty, but I'm not too sure if that's a desync issue, maybe since he left the session at some point in this race. But what a hellacious end to this Grand Prix, and that is definitely going down as a PSGL classic, especially that final lap here. Really special to watch, but it is Brendan Lee, the Scuderia, going wild. Of course, the last time actually, F1 came to Singapore. It was Sebastian Vettel in the prancing horse Scarlet Red Ferrari to take victory, and history repeats itself like a ripple, because in 2022, Brendan Lee comes out on top and he wins his first PSGL Grand Prix with a bang, I'd say.
Yeah, great race indeed for Brendan Lee. Took full advantage of the position in pole position and sent it after a grandiose qualifying. He has now made it a race win as well here at Singapore. Barry Burman in second place. 7 seconds was the gap, but nevertheless a grandiose performance from the two McLarens, with Wilson Hughes hot on his tail there, as you can see. And obviously the issue with the standings there, Jarno Watmere and Nicholas Longe, of course, coming together towards the end. No penalty for Nicholas Longe, so I'm sure that will be reviewed after the race. But driver of the day given to Wilson Hughes. No surprise, I think, given the fact that he managed to march up 10 places in this race today. So deserves all the plaudits indeed. But no stopping this man today. Brendan Lee, the winner here at Singapore at Marina Bay. And the Scuderia can watch on with glee to see their man standing on top step. But yeah, what a race indeed. Maximum points, 16 to be exact, for the Ferrari driver. And that will go a long way to certainly his championship, certainly allocation, as we've still got plenty of races left to go this season. Let's run you through the final standings here for the Singapore Grand Prix, folks. I'd like to say a massive thank you to every single one of you for tuning in. Brendan Lee finishes on top, confirmed P1. Barry Burman in P2 with Wilson Hughes in P3. Obviously, the battle between Nicholas Longe and Jarno Watmere will surely be reviewed. Not quite sure what happened there, but Jake Bedham showing in 5th as well. Danny Bereznik in 7th. Alessio Di Capua showing behind him in 8th. We got Philip Presnader in 9th with Simon Perigny in 10th. Lewis Welch finishing 11th despite some early promise going on, that's for sure. Christoph Zeller in 12th with Patrick Saipos in 13th. Thomas Ronhart in 14th with Alvaro Caraton sticking the softs on for the final lap. Not able to finish any higher than last. So incredible stuff, folks. Obviously a very interesting race, not something we would usually see. A lot of the drivers stretched ahead. We had different pockets of battles downfield, but nevertheless Brendan Lee able to execute at the very top, and he did it in great style.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan Lee really was uncontested for most of this race, and he was able to stretch out a huge advantage early on, which helped him in the long run. It's a thoroughly deserved victory for Brendan Lee, which of course is some big news for one of our championship contenders. Jarno Watmere has lost his race winning streak. He could have made it 6 in a row today, but unfortunately, that was not the case for him, and that means for Ash Best, his 7 in a row race record wins is going to be kept intact. But we are getting some interviews, I believe, George.
We certainly are. I'm delighted to be joined by two competitors who certainly did take it right to the end. Brendan Lee, I've got to say that I think this is the first time this has happened, Brendan, when I'm interviewing you for a race win. What a way to do it! A huge gap at the very end. You were comfortable out there right through that race.
I mean, I just want to do one thing. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Brendan.
Brendan who?
Brendan's back, baby.
Yay! Welcome back, Brendan. I have to say, I mean, I remember watching back, obviously, over the years. 2017, we hark back to that very first title win in F1 Esports. You did it again in 2018 for Mercedes, and now in the colours of red, you've come here now to PSGL, managed to cultivate yourself a race win this season, making it a 6th different winner this season in terms of actual race win and allocations to each driver in this season of PSGL. You must be utterly thrilled to get your name on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming, really, hasn't it? It's like since the Pro Exhibition in F1 2019, the start of 2020 at COVID, this is the first, let's call it serious race with really top drivers that I've won. And a lot, I can't even begin to describe the amount of work what's gone on behind the scenes. It's not just driving the sim, but you see me running on Instagram or on Twitter, whatever. Okay, that helps my fitness, but it's also building up the mental resilience for when the light switch switches, I can be there. And today, the light switch came on.
It certainly did come on, didn't it? I mean, how about that clutch finish in qualifying? And I mean, Q3, I mean, where did you find that lap? That was absolutely incredible. I mean, to land yourself on P1, I mean, to get into the 33s the way you did, that was astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit disappointed because my PB was like 3-4 attempts quicker, but that is just Singapore is. It's basically the person who makes the least mistakes in qualifying will take the pole position. And I took it by like 5 thousandths over Bari. So, and we know Bari's, statistically the best qualifier on the game from F1 Esports. So it's not a bad person to beat pole.
No, not at all. And he packs a huge punch as well. We've seen him duel with the likes of Jarno Opmeer, of course, in other leagues as well, like ORL and PSGL for that matter. They've had many titanic duels. But you were able to pretty much sit comfortable. Is that where you're most dangerous when you do get into the race? You're on the OP strategy, starting the way you did, obviously very comfortable. You seem to be relentless in that situation when everything seems to be lined up in front of you. It just... Is that your resilience as a driver, do you think? Is that your strength?
Yeah. Well, my strength is the race. I can't really say I'm a weak qualifier because there's no such thing as a weak qualifier in F1 Esports, but relatively that's probably my weakest trait is qualifying. And that just comes down to the fact I'm less comfortable with the car sliding around. So once I get the setup and get the force back feeling and I don't have the sliding anymore, I can put it at the top, and I've done a lot of work to find the better feedback to give in the wheel to give me that better feeling. And you're right, once I'm at the front, I'm able to control myself and control the race. That's where I'm at my best.
Yeah, it certainly showed today. And how about 3 times? How does that sound next year?
It sounds pretty damn good.
Well, I hope we get to see it, Brendan. But I just want to congratulate you on a tremendous victory, and I hope this won't be the last time we see you at PSGL this season as well. I hope we're going to see you for many seasons to come, because it's always a pleasure watching you race as well. And the greater the drivers we get here, obviously it's the greater the privilege to watch them. So I really hope you will be staying with us at PSGL for many seasons to come as well.
Thank you. I'm confident I will be, but glad to do that to you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Brendan. Next up, we have Wilson Hughes, and Wilson, fresh from what was a tremendous performance in the F1 Esports Invitational. We have come back now, and you're on the podium, Wilson. You're back on the podium. You're back in amongst the trophy area. That you're on the podium. You must be thrilled, mate. What a perfect return to league official points action for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice return. Before the race, I didn't feel too great. I was starting to get a bit lightheaded. It's quite warm in Scotland here, and I mean, that might not be too warm in Spain, but my room was definitely quite warm, and it didn't make me feel too great, so I got knocked out in Q2 for the first time in quite a while, actually. But I wasn't too disappointed. I knew the hard medium strategy was pretty powerful, and yeah, it was a pretty clean race. Pretty boring, but I'm not going to complain. P3 is definitely a nice position to finish in.
It certainly was. It was a tremendous effort. And I mean, heading into the latter stages of the race, I think I counted that you were around 10 positions higher than where you started. I mean, that is a huge effort.
Yeah, definitely. I think I started 13th and finished 3rd, so yeah, you're correct there. I think it also shows how powerful that ult strat can be. I usually don't go for it because I don't know, I just like the whole Q3 qualifying. But, I went for it. I don't usually go for it. It's been about a year since I went for it, in all honesty. And it paid off, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, obviously now looking ahead, you've got another podium to your name. Obviously, the future for yourself is obviously you're looking at F1 Esports as the target. Obviously, hooking together results in PSGL. We've spoken about confidence, mindset, mentality. I mean, battling with the likes of Jarno Opmeer, albeit the strategies were vastly different. Just how much does that mean to duel against those kinds of characters on a circuit such as Singapore?
Yeah, well, I definitely think no matter what strategy you're on, if you're fighting people like Jarno, you've definitely got something. Everyone in that grid definitely has something. I mean, put them in a smaller league and they'll destroy it. No offense to any of these smaller leagues, but they will absolutely annihilate it if you put them in any of them. So I think every driver in here definitely has an eye in esports. Every driver deserves to be in esports in this league. And yeah, as you said, it's very nice to be fighting the top guys and kind of just reassuring yourself that you have the pace. And we touched on, I think it was last week, about how mentally tough it can be. And when you get these sort of results, it's kind of mentally calming, and it kind of clears your mind and relaxes it for the the next few weeks and just reassures you.
Well, I tell you what, if the last 2 weeks has proven anything, it proves that you are a great competitor and certainly one on the up as well. So I want to congratulate you on another fantastic podium finish, Wilson. A huge P3. I'm sure there'll be many more to come as well if you keep going the way you are.
Thank you very much, George Morgan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Wilson. Thank you ever so much. What a pleasure to have two great drivers with us, Dan. And I think their words, certainly their speech speaks absolute volumes. I mean, just Brendan's confidence. He is going for F1 Esports next season. You could just tell he's a man possessed. He wants it, and I think he feels that PSGL is the hunting ground. It's where to start. Get yourself back racing on a regular basis. Earn that confidence. I think, if anything, we've seen that tonight. We have seen what Brendan can do in, when everything goes to plan.
Absolutely. I mean, Brendan Lee, he's one of the longest tenured F1 Esports drivers. He's been a part of every single season since its incarnation in 2017, winning the first two. And at that point, some people say, oh, he's got no chance against these young guys. He doesn't care. He's going for it. And I really do admire that in Brendan Lee. And I do think that if he keeps up form like this, and this league racing performance translates over to F1 Esports at the end of 2022, he is going to have a very, very good chance of coming out as champion. So Brendan Lee, I mean, complete fair play to him here, because he's got all the confidence in the world, and that's sometimes what you need when it comes to F1 Esports. You can be as quick as you like, but you don't achieve success without confidence first.
We're definitely stepping into a new era, I think, of F1 Esports. It's a whole different ball game to what it was a few years ago. But the fact that Brendan's been able to stay at the top through all the changes. I mean, we talk about in real Formula One the technical advances that are made. Obviously now Ferrari are currently leading the way in that as well. But the fact that Brendan's able to compete at the highest level throughout all the changes of the game. Obviously, we're a long way apart from where it was back in 2017, Dan. Certainly since then the Halo was introduced, as well as many other things. It takes a lot to stay at the top, and he's doing it. He is absolutely doing it. Do you not think that maybe, an in-form, a dangerous Brendan Lee is going to be a very imposing figure? I mean, surely that's what we want to see. We want to see the two greats, the two champions, going at it for next year.
Absolutely, and of course those two are in a deadlock at the moment. They're both two-time champions, and what a story it would be, really, if the pair of them could go right to the end of next F1 Esports season and be challenged. They'll be fighting each other back and forth throughout the entire season, and it comes down to the end to really establish the GOAT of F1 Esports before we enter the new era of all these young and prosperous drivers coming into the grid in the next few years. So I'm really excited. If Brendan Lee can keep up this form, and certainly for the next few races in PSGL, then I do fear for the other drivers in the next season of F1 Esports.
Well, we've got many others coming up as well. An impressive visit as well from Wilson Hughes, again, showing exactly what he is capable of. But also Barry Burman back with a vengeance as well, a man who we have seen battle with the likes of Jarno Opmeer so many times, season 28, season 29, and now he's back at the top end as well for season 30. Already racking up one win this season. He's now racked up another podium. He's got a total of 5 podiums to his name. Just one behind now of Jarno Opmeer, who currently has 6 podiums to his name. But nevertheless, I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of dramatic action. What this does mean as well is that, obviously, the title fight continues. Jarno Opmeer has yet to clinch it. Despite his advanced gap, he has not yet won the title. The battle still rages on. Let's give you a reminder of what the calendar is going to be, folks, because, of course, it's getting really, really spicy. We have got Austin, Texas coming up next for round 11 on the 27th and 28th of April, and that'll be for the United States Grand Prix here at PSGL. Then, of course, round 12. Could we see another title decided at Sao Paulo? We'll have to see. 4th and 5th of May, that is coming up for the Brazilian Grand Prix. We then head to Emilia-Romagna. It's Italy. It's Imola, folks. We're heading to certainly that wonderful country that has given us so much in the world of motorsport. We are there on the 11th and 12th of May with the grand finale. Usually it's at the start, but here at PSGL, it's the end. Bahrain on the 18th and 19th of May at the Sakhir International Circuit. What a way to round off a comprehensively brilliant World Championship. We have seen so much this season. It's been a pleasure to bring you all the action. If you haven't done so already, folks, I want to see a like and subscribe. Hit us up, folks. Make sure you do so. Stay up to date with everything PSGL. Head over to their Twitter account as well, at Premier Sim GL. You can also head over to Instagram and find Premier Sim Gaming Leagues on there as well. Should show up Premier Sim GL again. Make sure you leave them a follow and stay up to date again with everything related to PSGL. You can also give me a follow as well on Twitter at George Morgan TV. It's the same for my Instagram as well. And Dan Field, give me your Twitter tag if you please.
My name on Twitter is danfield_F1_. So make sure you hit the nice follow button for me. Make sure you unfollow George.
No, the other way around, guys. Make sure you get that right, okay? And it's Dan Garden, not Field. You know.
Nah. Incorrect.
Yeah, no, Dan Garden. What a special race, folks. An incredible race he did. I'd like to thank you, every single one of you, for being with me. Hopefully Andy will be back next time as well after he recovers from something that he picked up somewhere. We don't know where yet, but, you know, he'll be back soon, I'm sure. But we'll look forward to seeing you again for more racing here at PSGL. Onwards to Texas. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, folks.